Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's about 6.5 minutes past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. It's time for our Tuesday edition of The Drive for this 26th day of March. Glad that you could be with us. And I guess after all of sort of the stormy weather and the gloomy morning, the sun seems to be breaking through. Looking for a high that's going to be up in the upper 60s before it's all over with. So we're glad that that is going to be the case, because it was sort of like you get up and you go, ooh, it's just gloomy today.
Let's just go back to bed.
Yeah, that was the temptation. But I couldn't, because there was news breaking and all kinds of things going on. So I had to get up and so I could talk about them. I need to know what's going on so I can talk to you about it. By now, you have no doubt heard or seen, and if you've seen it, it's pretty hard to ever forget it, the pictures of this huge container ship slamming into a bridge in Baltimore early in the morning, about 1:30 in the morning. We now know this is not a terrorist event. It's very clear when you look at the video that something was going on with the ship and its power. It went off a couple of times, and they lost control of a huge, massive, fully loaded container ship coming out of the Baltimore harbor, headed out to sea, and it just took out the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which is, if you don't know Baltimore, it's a major thoroughfare around the city. It's one of several, not the only, thank goodness. It also is, of course, the opening of the harbor. And this is a huge harbor and has a huge economic impact on the United States. It's $80 billion worth of stuff comes in and out of that harbor every year. And it's going to be shut down for a while. And it's no telling how long it's going to be before they can get that bridge rebuilt and the harbor back open. So there are economic impacts to this. There are, of course, the tragic side of it is they're still looking for 6 people. Can you imagine that you're one of the first responders on the scene? You've got a boat out there. You're trying to put together what the hell is going on here. Little small boat, and you're going out there and you're bobbing around the water, and you get this announcement from your dispatcher.
Units responding on fuel alarm, I-695 East. Be advised, 13 persons possibly in the water. There was a 13-person construction crew operating on the bridge, possibly in the water at this time. 146.
6 to communications. Are you advising there's 13 people in the water?
Possibly 13 people in the water at this time. A construction crew.
Okay. Let's go ahead and special call Baltimore County Marine Unit 269 and Marine Unit 216. Notify Anne Arundel County to also stand by for their boat.
Yeah, try to get all the nautical assets that they can out there to try to start looking. As it turns out, there was enough warning. Apparently, the ship knew that it was having trouble, sent up the Mayday, and they were able to get some warning to the bridge. And quite frankly, apparently, they were able to shut down the traffic in such a way that it could have been much, much worse if they had not been able to do that. I'm unclear how exactly that all went down, but the authorities are saying that they were able to stop the traffic. Otherwise, cars would have just gone right off into the water. That bridge, 185 feet above the water level, the water is said to be 50 feet deep. Now, they are calling this at this hour. This is the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore. They are calling it a search and rescue. I think, honestly, let's be honest about it, more search than rescue. It's really, at this point, very unlikely that anybody who was in that water that has not already been recovered has survived it. Just the impact of the fall, the hypothermia that takes place in a situation like this. But that's what he's still calling it as of just a few moments ago.
The first, this is very much still a search and rescue mission. We are still actively looking for survivors. We know, and that's the pledge we've made to these families, and this is still very much an active search and rescue mission. And there is not a single resource that we will hold off on deploying. I have already authorized the deployment of everything from air, land, and sea resources to make sure that this search and rescue operation is carried out to its fullest intent. The second thing I want to remind people is that this will not be short. There's going to be a long road. There's going to be a long road, not just as we go from search and rescue. There'll be a long road as we talk about what does the future of this region, the future of the area look like.
Well, and it will take us some time for them to get to that. But again, right now, the more immediate thing that you have to do is if you have to continue looking and for recovery or rescue, if you believe that's still possible at this point. I just don't. Experience teaches me at this point highly unlikely. But you keep going out there and you keep searching. Then it becomes a recovery effort, and then the investigation begins. The National Transportation Safety Board already on the scene. But at this point in the investigation, they just stand back. They don't want to get in the way of any efforts that are going on by the state or local officials at this point, and we'll step in later to do a more complete investigation. But Jennifer Hamady is the chair of the NTSB, which is a remarkable organization that goes in and investigates these matters to find out exactly what went wrong and make suggestions to make sure things like this don't happen again. They have a sizable team already on the scene to do investigatory work when that becomes appropriate.
We have a team of 24 on scene, including Member Brown and me. The team of experts include experts in nautical operations, and what they're going to look at and begin to collect is information on vessel operations, safety history, safety record. They'll look at the owner, they'll look at the operator, and they'll look at the operations this day, today. They will also look at company policy, any sort of safety management system or safety management program will be looked at by them, and our human performance team as well. We have a human performance expert here. We have an engineering team. We have survival factors, and then we have a team here that is getting the recorders. We also have a highway safety team, our team out of the Office of Highway Safety, including structural engineers, bridge experts who will be here and are continuing to come in. We have a few here, and one or two others are coming in the next few hours.
And, of course, the big question is what caused the ship to lose power not once but twice? What was going on? What is the history of that particular ship, and has it had issues with its powertrain, its power systems before? These ships, when they're loaded up, they're not moving very fast. But there's a tremendous amount of mass when you're moving a ship that size, and that mass, when it runs into an immovable object like a bridge, it just doesn't stop. Even though it's going slow, it just takes an awful lot to slow a ship that's got that much mass behind it, even if it's moving at relatively slow speeds. So that bridge never really stood a chance. They are going to look at whether or not there should have been some safety reworkings of the bridge over the history of the bridge. It went up in 1977 and has been there without incident ever since. This is a highly unusual thing, and as I say, we're talking more about the tragedy of the moment and everything that's going on right now. But long term, this is going to be a big story in that it is a huge economic part of what goes on in this country with regards to trade. Short-term impact on food supplies as the port handles significant imports of agricultural machinery and commodities, including sugar, salt, as well as fertilizers. For the East Coast, a big import location for all of those things. If you've ever been to the inner harbor of Baltimore, it's a tourist area, but across the waterway from the tourist area is an actual working harbor. And I recall going there many, many times when I lived in the Washington, D.C. area. Going to Baltimore for the Inner Harbor was a nice afternoon's, distraction. And you would see the McCormick plant, the spice plant across the way, and the boats would be unloading pepper, and you could smell the pepper in the air. It's a very active port, and a lot of stuff comes in and out of there. Cargo workers at the port handle imports and exports of Audi, Bentley, Volkswagen, Nissan, Jaguar, Land Rover. The port's terminal brought in more than 800,000 cars according to the state government, on an annual basis. That's a lot. And so we're talking about an $80 billion, that's billion with a B dollar impact, foreign cargo handled last year by the port totaled $80 billion. And that's a huge thing. And the question is, how long does it take to get the port back open? The cargo ship named the Dolly was bound for Colombo, Sri Lanka, crashed in one of the steel beams supporting the bridge. This was about 30 minutes after it left the terminal at Point Breeze. Pilots and crews were not injured. And as you have seen in the video, the power goes out twice before it crashes into one of the bridge's main support pylons. There is some indication that perhaps, according to some of the early reporting, probably very early reporting, that this ship has had issues in the past, but we'll see what comes of that with time. They do say that some cars went into the icy water. The workers were filling potholes on the bridge before it came down. There were people that were recovered from the water who survived. One went to the hospital and one went home. Remarkable. They say if you fall from anything above 20 or 30 feet, it's like hitting cold water is like hitting a wall. So that somebody may have fallen as much as 185 feet to the water, came up to the surface, was recovered, and was taken to shore and just went home is a remarkable story. And no doubt in the days ahead we'll be hearing more about that individual's moments and what happened. It's been, as I said, a constant in Baltimore since it opened for traffic in 1977. It is critical to Interstate 695, which carries north and southbound traffic around the city in this very busy I-95 corridor. It is a way, there are still ways to get through. There are tunnels as well as bridges, and so traffic will be bad there, but will keep flowing through the area. And just a few moments ago, the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, was there on behalf of the Biden administration, looking over the situation with promises that they will move quickly to get this bridge up and running as soon as possible. But as soon as possible is still going to be a while. Again, a Mayday was sent, and had that not happened, apparently they say many, many more lives might have been lost. So a tragic day in the city of Baltimore, and a tragic day as they continue to clean up the mess and work on rescue and recovery. But the long-term impact of this is not to be overlooked. It will be an economic hit to the East Coast and to this economy at some point as they start to move things around. There may be shortages. There may be things that you can't get for a while. And prices at the grocery store as a result of some of this stuff could well go up until they can figure out their workarounds, which, quite frankly, when you're talking about moving shipments of stuff this size around the world, you lose a major port that does $80 billion worth of business on an annual basis, and you are talking about some economic impact, to be sure. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Well, the warmer weather seems to be on its way now, and if you're having trouble with your AC or air conditioning, man, you don't want to be miserable. You just want to get it up and running, right? Well, why don't you just call this number, 775-7833. That is the number to Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing, and they will buzz over to your hive and get you going really quick. Now, look, sometimes these systems, you just reach the end of their life. They're not meant to last forever. Usually, if you get a good 20 years out of one, you're doing pretty good. And if it's time that you have to replace it, you're not going to find a better value on HVAC or plumbing replacement systems than the folks over at Busy Bee. You might want to sign up for the Beehive Club. That's preventative maintenance. Keep these things running as efficiently as possible so you don't have as many problems. With this club, you sign up, and as little as $99, you get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% 20% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. So for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833, online at busybhvac.com.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
Learning more about the bridge collapse in Baltimore, Maryland, crime in Tennessee, a vehicle stolen, and we got some new details about the federal searches at homes belonging to entertainment icon P. Diddy. 3:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Mac Maury over there with all your news stories. Also, the star of the Runaway Hit segment, Mac Maury's Wild World of Sports, which has at 5:25 each day. We just take a little break to talk about sports because Mac is so good at it. And over there, well, you know him, you love him, you can't live without him. He is the man in charge of the Starship Super Talk 99.7 with all the blinky buttons. The command of the Battle Bridge. You have the con.
Yeah, live long and prosper.
All right. Listen, speaking of, I know, Mac, that we occasionally, you joke with me about my real passion for news regarding the moon.
Yes.
Yes, well, I have moon news here.
Oh, good.
Well, it really is more about the sun, but the moon is involved because we got this solar eclipse coming in just a few days. April 8th is the day that it will happen. And apparently, I'm learning some things that I did not know about this particular eclipse and how it is different than the one people may have experienced in Nashville back in 2017.
Okay.
For one thing, it is a wider eclipse. I don't know why, but it is wider, and it will cross more populated areas. Now, we won't get a full impact of the totality here in Nashville.
Yeah.
For that, you got to travel over toward Kentucky or to the west, and I'm intending to be in Henderson, Kentucky, where I'm told I'll get 2 minutes and 31 seconds worth of totality. In 2017, the moon was a bit further away from the Earth, causing the path to be thinner. This one, it's closer to the Earth because the orbit of the Earth, the moon around the Earth, is not strictly circular.
Mm-hmm.
And so the path over North America will range between 108 and 122 miles. According to NASA, an estimated 31.6 million people will live in the path of totality this year, compared to 12 million in 2017. And an additional 150 million people live within 200 miles of the path of totality, so a lot of people will rush to the center of the path of totality, like I'm going to do, to see it with Cabana Wife. I think it's going to be really cool. Let's see. The longest period of totality was experienced in 2017 in Carbondale, Illinois, 2 minutes and 42 seconds. But in April, the eclipse will go 4 minutes and 28 seconds in some areas, most notably at an area in northwestern Mexico. As the eclipse exits the U.S. and enters Canada, it'll still be 3 minutes and 21 seconds.
Wow.
So you got to get to the center if you want to take advantage of the largest time of totality, the center of the path. I don't think I'm going to be quite in the center, but I'm going to be close.
Close, yeah.
Yeah, close. And this is the really interesting thing. In 2017, the sun was what they call at near solar minimum. The activity of the sun was not particularly high. But this goes through different cycles. There is solar minimum and solar maximum. And on April 8th, the sun will be at or near solar maximum, which means that you'll be able to look up and you can look at it when it's in totality. And you'll be able to see the streams off the corona of the sun.
Ooh.
Streams of plasma coming off the sun, yeah. You might even see a coronal mass ejection, which doesn't sound very nice at all. Yeah, that's right. A large eruption of solar material during the eclipse. And so that's going to be quite the thing. And I think the neatest thing I heard was that in some places, I think in Dallas, I have my nephew is going to Dallas, where I think he said he's going to get something like 4 minutes of totality.
Hey.
Which I thought was pretty good, and so he's really into this stuff as well, and so you want to look for the snakes. I want to see the snakes. Apparently, if you look on the ground as this thing comes and leaves, there are these wiggly lines that come towards you, and they call them the snakes. I missed them the last time.
I thought we were talking about real snakes. I was like,
no,
moon snakes.
Man.
Whoa,
yeah, moon sun snakes. Yeah, that's right. So anyway, that's coming up on the 8th of April, just a few days from now. You can count on the drive to give you all the latest moon news.
Yeah.
All right, it's now time for the news at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7.
30 minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 69 degrees, still a little windy. Weather forecast, traffic report coming up in 5 minutes. During a press conference with the National Transportation Safety Board at the site of Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore this afternoon, NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy confirms they will comb through the Singaporean flagged ship's record, including any maintenance and repair records prior to today's crash.
That is part of our investigation, where we look at in-depth at safety information, anything that may have occurred prior to this, any sort of safety history with respect to the vessel, any sort of maintenance that was done to a vessel or the vessel or component on the ship.
A team of Singaporean officials, including Port Authority experts, will arrive at the scene tomorrow to assist the NTSB. Crime right here in Tennessee. Channel 4 reports that police are on the lookout for a man who allegedly stole an elderly man's car from a Clarksville gas station. This happened 10 days ago. The 78-year-old man entered the gas station with his car on and let his vehicle and then left. And when he left the gas station, his vehicle was gone. The man who stole the car was caught on camera heading towards downtown Clarksville. Anyone with any information is asked to call Crime Stoppers. And we've got some new details about the federal searches at homes belonging to entertainment icon Sean Diddy Combs. Brian Clark.
Federal agents seized a number of electronic devices during their searches of 2 properties associated with Sean Diddy Combs. Law enforcement sources tell ABC News 4 women have filed lawsuits accusing the rap mogul of rape, sex trafficking, and other abuses. The sources say these searches of properties in Miami and Los Angeles were part of an ongoing federal sex trafficking investigation. Combs denied the allegations in a social media post in December.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
You know, Grace Point Healthcare is the standard for affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine. How? Well, as a direct pay provider, your healthcare is delivered without the red tape of an insurer's guidelines. Don't you just hate it when they get in the middle of what's right for you and your doctor have decided, but they have a different opinion? Smart Care plans make it even more affordable. Starting at $69 a month, you get free office visits and basic labs for the entire year. All year long. Everything, every time you go, free office visits and your basic labs are covered. Grace Point identifies and treats the root causes of condition, not just the symptoms, using a comprehensive functional approach. And by seeing you the same or the next day, you're treated at your convenience, not theirs. Grace Point Healthcare, affordable, comprehensive, and convenient medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. They are located on Main Street in Franklin, and if you want to set up an appointment, here's the number, 599-6868. That's 615-599-6868. 37 minutes now past the hour, 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hey, everybody, Brian Wilson in the chair on this 26th day of March. It is a Tuesday after a very, well, I don't know about your place. Chris, was it pretty breezy out at your house?
Just a bit. Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming that it was at my house. I apparently slept through it pretty soundly, but when I got out, I noticed that it looked like the stuff had been blown around pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was that, and then it was rainy all morning and gloomy, and I couldn't get the dogs to go out or anything. But now it's like, man, it's beautiful. I mean,
yeah, very lovely out.
I mean, I've got, 65? I heard it's going to hit 68, almost 70 degrees before the day is done. So, it started out, not so great, but we're looking pretty good right now. Take advantage of it when you get home. And you can put the cushions back out.
Yeah, they may need to dry out a little bit if you were late putting them out or getting them up.
That's right. The media are really getting to the point where they are so corrupted, you don't know, what to do in trying to get good information. Now, look, I'm going to tell you that, I'm up front with you here. I am a conservative talk radio show host. And I look at things from a conservative perspective, and make no bones about that. Where you really get into trouble, I think, in journalism is when you are a partisan, but you don't acknowledge that you're a partisan. And certainly, I think, when you look around, there are some pretty egregious actors out there in the world of journalism who are calling themselves journalists who look at the world, I would say, from a slanted viewpoint. Now, the one that most everybody looks at real quickly is George Stephanopoulos, who was, very much active in the Clinton campaign and the Clinton White House, and very much a partisan. Now he serves as sort of the host of a morning show where he, has sort of, does the soft morning show features, but he still does that weekend show where they get into politics. And, sure, there's some truth to the fact that George Stephanopoulos understands politics, but he also looks at it, I think, from a very slanted perspective, in my opinion. And then you look over at some of the other places, and you got NBC. The show over there that they do on Sunday mornings used to be a place where you could go for pretty up-the-middle information. Now you say, well, when was that, Brian? Well, do you remember the days of a guy named Tim Russert? Now, Tim Russert, actually his background was that he worked on the Hill for Democrats at one point. But one thing I will say about Tim Russert is that I always thought when I watched Tim Russert that he was a sort of an equal opportunity offender. I mean, he went after Democrats, and he went after and asked the hard questions of Republicans and Democrats alike. I never really saw him pull a punch. I just thought that he was always trying to get the best information and going after the weaknesses of each side's argument. And I had some admiration for Tim Russert. I remember very, very distinctly the day that he died. I was in the newsroom at Fox News, and we had, in the news media in Washington, people who work in other shops, et cetera. And word had leaked out that he'd had a heart attack at work. And it happened while we were in the middle of planning our coverage for the next day. And I was able to get two solid sources of information confirming that he had indeed passed away. And we decided, out of courtesy, really, and respect for him, to let his organization make that announcement, even though we had it confirmed. And generally, it's really funny when something happens within a news organization like that. The news organization is always the last to report it for some reason. They're just like, I don't know why. I guess maybe they're just too close to it. But it took quite a while, but they finally did announce that he had had a heart attack and passed away. And he was, I think he was respected on both sides of the aisle. You may have had your opinion. You may have seen one thing or another that you disliked, but overall, I think his reputation was up the middle. Now, he got replaced by a guy named Chuckles Todd, and this guy is just the worst. Just the worst example of what you don't want in this kind of role. What you want is somebody who goes out there and tries to get information up the middle. Ask the hard questions like Russert did of both sides. But Chuck Todd is a partisan and just a blatant left-leaning hack in my estimation. I have zero respect for Chuck Todd as somebody who even tries to show even a little bit of partisanship. Well, the other day, as these news organizations do sometimes, they cut deals with people to be contributors. Fox did it, CNN does it, MSNBC does it. Somebody, is out there in an interesting role, and that role comes to a close. Dana Perino is a perfect example of someone who was that. McEnany, who worked in the Trump administration over at Fox. But they came in as not as journalists, but initially, as people who were there to provide opinion. They are opinion givers. Now, that's okay, and they get paid. They have a contract. You are on call to us, and we need you, and we want you to talk about whatever's going on in the news that day, and you belong to us, and you can't make appearances on other news organizations. And so you cut these deals, and they're called contributor contracts. So Ronna McDaniel leaves the RNC. She is leaving after serving there as chair of the RNC. Other RNC chairs have also found jobs as contributors on various networks. Reince Priebus comes to mind right off the bat. And so, she gets this job with NBC, and I don't know what she was paid, but it's probably a six-figure contract, to be honest with you. And it was signed up by the honchos at NBC News. With they got money in the budget for this, and they wanted her, and they got her. And then it turned out that Chuck Todd got his nose out of joint, and a lot of other people got their nose out of joint over NBC. How dare you put somebody on there who might tell the conservative side of the story? Oh my gosh, we cannot have this. And they just went after her on the weekend show this past weekend. Just attacked her. Now comes word. NBC News is planning to drop our ex-RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel, as a contributor following backlash from inside the network. The former top Republican has responded by seeking legal representation after the sudden ousting. There's a contract involved, and her contract now apparently is going to be, dropped. If they don't pay her off, then indeed she may have a pretty good case against them because they signed a contract. Comes after the network's top political analyst, Chuck Todd, erupted into an on-air rant about McDaniel's hiring, particularly taking issue with her support of Donald Trump's claims following the 2020 election. Todd's meltdown was quickly followed by other liberal media stars. MSNBC host Rachel Maddow describing the hiring as inexplicable, and she hoped that her bosses would reconsider that decision. Fury at McDaniel's hiring reportedly began behind closed doors, with top contributors taking offense to not being asked their opinions beforehand. I used to work for a major news organization. My bosses didn't give a rat's you-know-what about what I thought. They did what they thought was right for the company and what was right for the product. And it wasn't, we weren't asked our opinion. What do you think about so-and-so? What do you think about so-and-so? No, that was never the thing. And it just turns into a real meltdown. So NBC, apparently they haven't made the official announcement, but it's being widely reported that Ronna McDaniel's on the way out. I imagine that what's happening is they're trying to work out some kind of payment to get her to go out the door quietly because they don't want this thing to become bigger than it is. But too late. What is astonishing here is that, there would have been a time and a place where you could have somebody like Ronna McDaniel on to offer another idea, another perspective, perspective of what's going on in the world of politics, other than the one that you always get on MSNBC and NBC News. So, it's just ridiculous that they can't have any alternative voice without just having some kind, they get the vapors or something. I don't know what it is. It's ridiculous. Other media mayhem news, you'll find this interesting, I think. Attorney General Bailey of Missouri filed suit against Media Matters for refusal to cooperate with an investigation. This is from a press release I'm reading. Today, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey filed suit against Media Matters to force the nonprofit to turn over documents related to his investigation into his fraudulent business practices. He launched this investigation in November of 2023 after evidence came to light that Media Matters solicited donations from Missourians under false pretenses to target X in direct violation of the Missouri Merchandising Practices Act. My office has reason to believe that Media Matters used fraud to solicit donations from Missourians in order to bully advertisers into pulling out of X, the last social media platform dedicated to free speech in America. His words, so we launched an investigation to get to the bottom of them. However, Media Matters has a sordid history of refusing to cooperate with investigations. I'm not going to let this activist group stonewall us. If there's been any attempt to defraud Missourians in order to trample on their free speech rights, I will root it out and hold bad actors accountable. Media Matters, very left-leaning, Soros-funded. These are the folks who are always out there, trying to stir the waters. And as somebody who has been on the receiving end of Media Matters from time to time, let me just say that they play hard freaking ball. But after a while, it became sort of a badge of honor. If they came after you, it means you must be doing something right. And then this, quickly, 60 Minutes had a segment on misinformation researchers. And they went to a University of Washington professor and researcher by the name of Kate Starbird, featured on the program about misinformation proliferating on social media. Well, what they failed to disclose is that she got millions in government grants and had donated to Biden. So, again, when you're going and you're doing reporting and you're putting somebody forward in a piece as an expert on something who gives you an opinion about what they think about that particular topic, you have an obligation to reveal to the audience what this person and what their proclivities might be, what their slant might be, and what their past history is to some degree. So, again, 60 Minutes used to be something where you could, count on, it's been a long time, I suppose, but you used to count on occasionally some decent journalism, but now it's just turned into a thing like the others where they're just finding people to tell the story that they want to tell instead of telling people both sides of the story. 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
We have an update on the bridge collapse in Baltimore, possible new legislation in Tennessee concerning the death penalty, and a lot of eggs are about to be purchased, and it ain't going to be cheap. Those stories and more coming up at 4. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I just see what you did there. That's good. That's good.
Thank you.
Exactly the kind of story I would expect from you. Yeah. All right. There's got to be about 2 or 3 more puns, but I'll move on. Looking at the markets right now, Dow Jones Industrial down 31 points, S&P down 14, NASDAQ down 68. All the screens were red today. What's going on out there? What's going on with consumer sentiment and all of that? Let's check in with John Maxon over at Beacon Capital Management for more. Hello, John.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian. Yeah, so today, as we wait on the inflation information that's coming out later in the week, the Consumer Confidence Index came out, and consumers overall in the month of March came in more pessimistic than in February. That reading was down 100 to 104.7, which the expectation was 107. So again, a little bit more pessimism. There's also this indicator called the Expectation Index, which measures consumers' short-term outlook for income, labor, and business. That fell 3 points as well, so more pessimism from consumers, which is a big part of the economy. And so hopefully on Friday the inflation numbers come in well, or that may add to some of the market down days. But today, consumers feeling more pessimistic.
All right. Thank you very much, John. Listen, you need to find out all the things that John Maxon and the other good people over at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you get ready for your retirement. Just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 58, almost 59 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
.401, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 68 degrees right now in Nashville, and that sun has popped out after what was a dreary start to today and this afternoon. We got a traffic report plus that complete weather forecast. It's headed your way in 5 minutes. Starting with an update on the Baltimore Bridge collapse, Michelle Franson.
At least 6 people are still missing after a container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore overnight, causing the more than mile-long span to crash into the chilly waters. The NTSB now leading the investigation into the cause, but authorities say there's no indications of terrorism. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy says they're recovering the ship's recorders and will interview the crew in the coming days.
We chose not to board the vessel today to allow some time for the search and recovery, which we did not want to interfere with.
Baltimore's port, one of the largest in the region, the span also a major artery and fixture. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
This is one of the cathedrals of American infrastructure. It has been part of the skyline of this region for longer than many of us have been alive.
President Biden pledging federal aid to rebuild.
And back here in Tennessee, a bill to be discussed in the Tennessee Senate Judiciary Committee would authorize the death penalty as a punishment for rape of a child. The bill is sponsored by Franklin Republican State Senator Jack Johnson and Portland Republican Representative William Lamberth. Under the bill, if an individual is convicted of aggravated child rape, the person could be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole or death. There would, however, be an exception for a defendant who has an intellectual disability. On the other side of the aisle, some Democrats reference advocates who argue the bill could discourage family members from reporting child rape if it means a death sentence for a family member or a close friend. And we're approaching the two big egg holidays of Easter and Passover, and as Sherry Preston reports, buying them will set you back a bit this year.
According to the Dutch research firm Rabobank, the average price for a dozen eggs in the U.S. is around $2.99. Now, that's less than the $4.21 you were paying last year, but it's still elevated. And most experts think egg prices will stay high for quite some time. One reason, avian flu cases in Europe, Africa, Asia, and recently here in North America. More than 130 million birds either died from it or had to be culled because of it in 2022 alone.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, it's time for hour number 2 of the drive on this 26th day of March, Tuesday, with the sun shining late in the day after a gloomy morning. How you doing out there? Let's get you home safely. Make sure that you get wherever it is you're going, and then we'll give you some information as you drive and glide down the highway. A lot of stuff going on today. We've been trying to keep you up to date on that bridge collapse. They're still, they call it a search and recovery effort, but it really at this point it's not likely that there's going to be any more rescues, one would guess, but that's what they're calling it. And again, no indication, I think, that there was anything untoward. I mean, there was a tragic power failure on board the ship, and they got it up and running a couple of times, but the ship, when you get a ship like that moving in a direction, and they're so heavily loaded and there's so much mass in them that you just can't stop them. And the bridge was not up to the task of stopping the ship, and the bridge went down. And they say they're looking down for 6 people who were missing, probably part of a road crew that was working on the bridge, repairing potholes that night. So again, that is the very latest there. There are other implications, their financial and economic implications for a very important port that does about $80 billion worth of business on an annual basis. And, when you knock down one of our major ports and you are closing it off for months and months and months, this thing will not be open for a while. Well, there are some things that are going to emerge over time, and we'll continue to look at that. Right now, I think, though, we want to get into our 2024 coverage. Got some stuff here that I think you're going to find interesting. Numbers, I'm going to give you some numbers here, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on numbers. But I think these are battleground numbers. They come from the Bloomberg organization. And if they are correct, Donald Trump still has a good lead in these battleground states, which is really what it's all about. Again, remember, as I try to explain to you how these elections go, there are always going to be certain states that are blue states and certain states that are red states. It's these ones that are up for grabs that are really the ones you got to focus on. And, he's looking all right. However, the numbers have tightened. Here we go. Arizona, according to the 5-way, this is the 5 candidates instead of just 2. Arizona, Trump leads by 6. That's good. Georgia, Trump leads by 7. That's beyond the margin of error, well beyond. In Michigan, however, it is a tie. And as I've told you, Michigan is very important. Other polls have this differently, but the Bloomberg poll has Michigan as a tie between the 5 different candidates are considered there. Nevada, Trump up by 6. North Carolina, Trump up by 6. Pennsylvania, which is very tight in some polls, but not in this one, Trump up by 6. And in Wisconsin, Trump up by 7. Where this poll differs from most other polls is Michigan. In some polls, there's a CNN poll out there that has Trump leading over Biden in Michigan by 8, but the Bloomberg poll has it a tie. In some other polls, Pennsylvania is very, very tight, but in this particular poll, they have Trump running away with it with about a 6-point lead. And again, this is a 5-way poll, not a 2-way poll. They took Biden, they took Trump, they took Kennedy, they took Stein, they took West. There may be others, and I think this looking at the 5-way is the way to get the better sense of what's probably the more reliable numbers. So there you go, another bit of battleground poll news. The thing that the Democrats are taking away from this is the last time that they did the battleground poll, Bloomberg did, the margins were a bit wider in some areas. So Democrats feel like, well, we're closing the gap. We'll see. We'll see. Michigan is the one to watch. Keep watching that one. There's now a whole lot of other stuff going on that has nothing to do with poll numbers. Here we go. Republicans take on ballot harvesting drop boxes, but they want to legally use them in the 2024 election cycle. This is a good idea. Pennsylvania GOP lawmakers are looking to ban ballot drop boxes as Republicans in New Jersey seek to embrace them. As Alabama has banned ballot harvesting and Republican lawmakers in Pennsylvania are fighting to drop the ballot boxes, GOP campaign efforts are using the same tools where they are legal. This is what we've got to do. Listen, I don't like the idea of them, but if the Democrats are going to do it, then we've got to do it as well in states where such a thing is allowed under law. Democrats have long focused, according to justthenews.com, on mail-in and early voting, while Republicans have warned of potential insecurities of those methods. Now the GOP is starting to embrace in this election cycle. However, the acceptance of mail-in voting as a tool isn't preventing Republicans from looking to secure or ban certain aspects of it, such as ballot harvesting and ballot drop boxes. Last Wednesday, Alabama enacted a law that bans ballot application harvesting, which is the collection of absentee ballot applications by third parties. The law will take effect prior to the November presidential election. That's, again, in the state of Alabama. In other places, Republican state senators who voted, this is Pennsylvania. Alabama requires that only the voter or the medical emergency designee return in their mail-in ballot. In Pennsylvania, a state committee last Tuesday approved a ban on ballot drop boxes, in which ballot harvesters tend to use to drop off multiple ballots. Republican state senators who voted for the measure noted that ballot drop boxes are not secure and allow for election fraud. And it goes on, and it goes through some of the states where it is allowed and the Republicans are going to play, and other places where they're trying to, stop it from happening altogether. But one way or the other, I think our preference is that we not do ballot harvesting, but if there's going to be ballot harvesting legally allowed in a state, then by God, we better be in the middle of it. That's the way it needs to be. And this is a good thing. This is going to be a major push of the RNC, now under control of Donald Trump. This is an interesting story from the Washington Examiner, and I think it's right. A top Republican fundraising committee is warning GOP candidates not to focus their 2024 platforms solely on criticizing President Joe Biden, warning that the tactic caused the party to underperform in the last midterm election. In a memo sent to Republican candidates for state-level races, the Republican State Leadership Committee outlined several strategies to increase their chances of success in the November election. The bottom line, focus on GOP policies and legislative wins rather than entirely focusing on Joe Biden. We must learn from the missteps of the 2022 cycle and not solely target Joe Biden in our campaign messaging. While it's tempting, the data suggests this strategy is insufficient on its own. I agree. Now, Donald Trump is going to go after Joe Biden. Down ballot, we need to talk about the things that we are accomplishing. We need to talk not only about what the other side is doing that's wrong, but what we want to do that will be right, that will improve lives or have improved lives. I agree with that 1,000%. You cannot just, pound Joe Biden, and expect to win. You got to be for something. And you got to be able to enunciate very clearly the things that you have accomplished. So, is it a part of the strategy to go after Biden? Absolutely, of course. That makes sense. But it can't be the only strategy. And if we do, then the party will underperform. I think good advice. I think really good advice. Here's an interesting little story from FoxNews.com. New census data analysis suggests a Pennsylvania advantage for Trump and the GOP in 2024. What's this about? Well, recent migration out of Pennsylvania and between its counties could present an even closer 2024 matchup between President Biden and former President Trump in the critical battleground state than in 2020, an analysis of new census data shows. Uneven patterns of in and out migration could work to make what was a closely contested 2020 presidential campaign even closer in 2024, says Bernwood Yost, who is the director of an opinion research firm. In the 2020 presidential election, Biden defeated Trump by under 100,000 votes, winning the state 50 to 48.8. Going into 2024, the Keystone State, as we've mentioned, is expected to play a similarly pivotal role, given its high percentage of manufacturing workers, a demographic that both campaigns have made a point of lobbying in the early months of the year. Since 2020, when the last census was taken, Yost notes that census data released earlier this month showed counties won by Trump had a net gain of populace of around 4,500 people. In other words, the strong areas for Trump have grown. Biden won counties posted a combined loss of more than 45,000. So Trump counties up 4,500, Biden counties down in Pennsylvania, down by 45,000. You with me? That's not a bad trend for us. See, I think that this is the thing that concerns me when we hear these talks about, trying to move people into areas where they're, directly flying people from other countries into 40 some odd cities around the country, and they won't tell us who the cities are. Illegal immigrants, where they're trying to build back up the numbers in places where people have been leaving. California, Pennsylvania, the Northeast, New York, Chicago. Overall, Pennsylvania saw its population decline since 2020, with the Census Bureau press release even highlighting Philadelphia County as one of the largest declining counties in the United States. Have you been to Philadelphia? Honestly, it's not a nice place. So I can understand why that would happen. With a 35% job approval, Joe Biden is floundering in his home state of Pennsylvania. Yes, he's from Scranton. Between higher gas prices, surging crime, and failed Democrat policies crushing families at every corner, it's no wonder that Pennsylvanians across the Commonwealth are increasingly rejecting the failed Biden agenda and supporting Trump. Well, if that number is correct from the Bloomberg poll, numbers for Trump are looking pretty good. Again, other polls have it much tighter. Well, we have a vice presidential running mate for RFK. He made the announcement this afternoon, and here's what he had to say.
I found all of those qualities in a woman who grew up right here in Oakland, the daughter of immigrants who overcame every daunting obstacle and went on to achieve the highest levels of the American dream. So that is why I'm so proud to introduce to you the next Vice President of the United States, my fellow lawyer, a brilliant scientist, technologist, a fierce warrior mom, Nicole Shanahan.
You're saying who? Yeah, that's what I said. Who? Well, a California-based attorney who was previously married to Google co-founder Sergey Brin as his running mate for the long-shot presidential bid, according to many choices. 38 years old, runs a foundation focused on reproductive rights, criminal justice, and environment. Before backing Kennedy's independent bid, Shanahan had previously been a donor to Democrat campaigns, including supporting Joe Biden's election in 2020. And Kennedy was slated to announce his choice today. That it did happen just a short while ago. RFK and Shanahan. That's the ticket. Yeah, that's the ticket. Okay, so now here's the thing. I do hear from people all the time. So, I say, Wilson, what is it you got against RFK? Well, because I think he's a Democrat, and I think he's trying to pull the wool over your eyes. But I know a lot of you have really strong feelings. There are people who, within the sound of my voice, who like RFK Jr. So listen, we're going to go to commercial break, but if you are one of those people who likes RFK Jr., I want you to call in 615-737-9986 and tell me why. We'll talk to you right after the commercial break. 21 past the hour now. You've heard me talk about my friends at Nashville Golden Coin. They're relocating to a new location, and right now, you got to take action pretty quick. They have an opportunity to let you get into buying some silver bars and silver assets at a pretty good price. Maybe you've seen that gold and silver prices are up. Well, they've got generic silver rounds and bars offered as low as $1.50 over spot price. They're selling the top-of-the-line American Silver Eagles as low as $3.50 over spot price through today. I mean, you need to get on the phone right now. You need to get on and call them. It's silver Canadian maple leafs as low as $2 over the spot price. They do have limited supplies at these prices, so give them a call. They continue to stock all your gold and silver staples as well. If you've been sitting on the fence about putting your dollars into real hard metal assets, there's never been a better time to jump in with Nashville Gold and Coin. You can find them on their website, NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Search efforts underway in Baltimore after a bridge collapse. We'll give you an update there. Plus, money news. We take a trip to Wall Street. 4:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25, making 26 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. Mentioned a moment ago that Nicole Shanahan has been named as a running mate for RFK Jr. And, look, I don't quite understand the attraction. I think when you look at the numbers, when you throw RFK and Jr. into the mix, he tends to take more away from Joe Biden than he does from Donald Trump. So I don't have any real concerns with him. But I really do hear from people all the time say, well, I like RFK. There's a lot of things I like about him. And so I'm mystified by this because I don't see the attraction, quite frankly. I have a hard time understanding. But let's be open. Persuade me. Phone lines are open, 615-737-9986. If you like RFK Jr., tell me why. James in McMinnville, you're up next. You're first on the drive, actually. What's up, James? What do you think? What is it that you like about this guy?
Well, first let me say this. I love Watertown. I was a UPS man there for almost 20 years. I know all the people, and I kind of consider it my hometown in a way.
Yeah.
So, and I know Ricky listens to you every day, listens to WTN out in front of his house on Main Street in his pickup truck for hours.
All right.
Okay, but now that being said, okay, as far as RFK, the reason I was leaning toward RFK until his announcement today is because the Democrats hate him, and I see what's happened to him as the same as what happened to Ron Paul. I was a big Ron Paul supporter, and I was so angry at the Republican Party and everybody and what they did to Ron Paul, and so that's kind of the reason I was leaning toward RFK, for that very reason.
Just
But
because
he lost me.
if the Democrats hate him, then you must like him, right?
Yeah, because there's a reason why they hate him. So, I mean, I was just leaning towards him in that way. I mean, I hadn't made up my mind 100% yet, but I was leaning toward it for that reason.
All right, thank you, James. Appreciate it. Billy in Nashville, you're up next on the drive. So give me your sense of it, Billy. If you like RFK, tell me what is the attraction for you?
I'll tell you why I like RFK. I like RFK because he's going to pull all the old yellow dog Democrats that are still holding their nose and voting for Biden right over to his party. And yet he's not got enough attraction that he's going to pull any Republicans away from Trump. And I think it's great that he's running because he's going to put Trump right in the Oval Office.
So you're not saying you would vote for him. You just like what he does to sort of mess with the numbers for the Democrats, right?
It's about time somebody messed with the Democrats. They've been messing with us for years.
All right, so fair enough. But I do hear from people who say they like his policies, they like his strategy, they like him, they want to vote for him. You're not one of those guys.
Not if you dig deep, you don't.
That's exactly my point. All right, I think we agree on that. Thank you, Billy. Chris in Columbia, you're up next on the drive. So tell me what's the attraction?
Hey, Brian, I actually do like him as a person a lot, way more than Biden or Trump. I think what he's done for trying to hold big companies accountable to as far as how he cleaned up the Hudson River and cleaned up a lot of other areas. He's got a proven track record of being able to go against the government and get business done, and I like that a lot. He's well-spoken. He's very articulate. He's very much a First Amendment, Second Amendment supporter. And I appreciate all of that. He doesn't like the government lockdowns.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the government control. He's very much against that. Now, in a lot of other ways, I don't like him. My biggest is with his drug policy. He wants to legalize drugs. However, and I'm very much against that. But at some point,
that's one of the things that a lot of people like about him. Actually, I know, and some people really they love that. That and his anti-vax thing are two things that people often mention. Well, interesting enough. I'm just curious, Chris, if it weren't for RFK, how would you describe your politics? I'm just curious.
Oh, I'm actually quite conservative. I actually would very much vote for Trump. I don't like Trump as a person. I don't think he's a great guy, but as a president, he totally surprised me by being a really good president. And so I agreed with the things he did when he was in office. I thought he was a good president. However, I'm afraid that if he or Biden is elected, I don't know. Maybe I'm weird about this, but I'm very actually concerned about a civil war. And
all right.
Well, a lot of.
I listen, I'm sorry we're just running short of time, but I just appreciate it. I wanted to get some sense of how you looked at it otherwise, because I'm trying to find out what it is about this guy that some people do really, really, really like. And I catch it from people all the time who say, I don't understand, Wilson, why you don't like this guy. And they do. Well, anyway, thank you for the call. I think that was a little illuminating. 31 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock.
4:31. I'm Mac Morey with your top story. 69 degrees currently in Music City, and it has cleared up a little bit from the dreary, overcast morning. Starting with the bridge collapse, more details coming to light following that container ship collision with the Francis Scott Key Bridge that suspends over a waterway in Maryland. The cargo vessel issued a mayday call saying they've lost control. Authorities say it was moving at a very rapid speed when it struck the bridge. Ike Ajaji is in Baltimore, where search efforts are underway this afternoon.
We're being told that there was a crew of 8 workers who were busy filling potholes at the time of the incident. Now, when that mayday came from that container ship, we're being told officials on the bridge essentially stopped traffic. And right now we're learning that the Maryland transportation officials, they reviewed the traffic cameras and they're now confirming that no vehicles were transiting the bridge at the time of the incident.
Search crews searching now for 6 people who are presumed to be dead. Over to some money news. Chuck Sievertson.
A down day for the major indexes. The Dow lost 31 points, the S&P down 15, and the Nasdaq lost 69. Analysts say the Baltimore bridge collapse will force ships or their cargo to be rerouted to other ports, potentially creating delays for importers and raising costs. The Trump Media and Technology Group zoomed more than 50% in the first minutes of its debut on the Nasdaq, triggering a brief trading halt because of the volatility. Trump Media's merger with the shell company Digital World Acquisition Corp was completed Monday. The city of Berkeley, California has agreed to halt enforcement of a ban on natural gas piping in new homes and buildings that was successfully opposed in court by the California Restaurant Association, according to that organization. Visa and MasterCard announce a major settlement with U.S. merchants to lower and cap the fees they charge and allow small businesses to collectively bargain for rates.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Okay, listen, discover your retirement saving potential in less than 30 seconds with Beacon Capital Management's free retirement savings calculator. It's a simple step-by-step calculator, very easy to use. You'll get your results right away. So take the next steps in your financial planning journey and see how much money you could have saved by now and how much you need to save as you head closer and closer to retirement. And if you get that number and you go, oh my, I really need to get busy here. Why don't you pick up the phone and call this number, 615-488-9303. The folks at Beacon Capital Management can help you do the deep dive and get you started down the path so that you're not going to find yourself in a bind when it's time to retire. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. All the T's have been crossed, all the I's have been dotted. That number is 615-488-9303. Now, the experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more at AskBeaconNow.com. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and giving you an I just went down the line and my mouth just stopped working there. Bringing you news and information. That happens every once in a while. What happened there? It's like I was just going along and everybody went, Bloof.
You had a Biden moment.
I did. Well, no, I hope not. You know, I know what it was. I was distracted by this next story. McMorey, this is one that's not in your newscast, but perhaps it should be. This is big news. This is big news. You know, there's no man who stands in greater admiration of a good donut than me.
Ooh.
I mean, you know, when it comes to donuts, ask people who've known me a long time. It's pretty hard for me to pass up a good donut. And I think probably I rate across the country. If I check out a donut shop, I rate them. And I think the number one donut shop in the country was in my hometown of Odessa, Texas, called the Southern Made Donut Shop.
Wow.
And I'm looking forward going back to Odessa in October. And of course, one of the things I'll do is I'll go get a dozen of them donuts.
Just for you.
Well, you know,
all for you.
Who knows? I'll get a dozen. Let's see what happens. But you know, and I love them. There's some others around. Here we got some really good donuts. I used to talk about this in the morning all the time, and people always tell me, well, you need to go here and you need to go there. Great donuts. A lot of people like the Krispy Kreme donut. I'm not a huge fan of the Krispy Kreme, but I acknowledge that there are those who adore the Krispy Kreme donut. Mac Maury, are you a Krispy Kremer or not?
Oh, yeah, I love Krispy Kreme.
Okay. You'll love this. McDonald's and Krispy Kreme are teaming up. McDonald's and Krispy Kreme have announced that they will start, Krispy Kreme donuts will be sold at McDonald's restaurants across the country. And it's going to start in some areas and will be nationwide by 2026. Woo! The plan is to offer 3 different varieties of Krispy Kreme donuts delivered fresh each day to McDonald's restaurants. Individual, you can get an individual donut or a box of 6. So you pull through, you get your Egg McMuffin and a box of 6 donuts. Original glaze, chocolate iced with sprinkles, and chocolate iced but cream filled.
You know, I'm not a Krispy Kreme fan per se, but I gotta say this is a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
I kind of like where this is going.
It's a good idea. I mean, it will be. It said, listen, it was successfully tested in McDonald's locations in Kentucky. They tried this in Lexington, and they went wild in Lexington, Kentucky. They went wild in Louisville. The pilot locations will continue to serve Krispy Kreme donuts, and you know this is. I love this. On Tuesday, Krispy Kreme stock jumped 20.5% after announced its deal with McDonald's restaurants.
Whoa.
Yeah. The key is going to be ensuring that they are delivered fresh each morning.
Yeah.
Because if they're day old donuts,
you don't want that.
I can get those at the gas station.
Well, I mean, if you got a Krispy Kreme in your town, there's a chance there's a McDonald's. They just bring a bunch over, put them into boxes, and drop them off each morning. Pretty smart. I like the Donut King in Lebanon.
Yeah? Is that a good one?
Yep, pretty good.
There's several pretty good donut shops in this area.
I mean, I would say it's probably on my total list of donut shops, it's probably number 5.
You've really given this a lot of thought.
I got to see this fleshed out. Is there any other higher in Tennessee? Is that the highest ranking donut shop here in the mid-state?
There's some I have not tried yet that have been highly recommended. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough.
So I want to withhold judgment. But that's where it is right now. So anyway, let me just say that, the reason that I'll tell you how important donuts are in my life is that whenever my niece and my nephew, and their grandniece and grandnephew, whenever I'm around, they know I'm a soft touch when it comes to going to get the donuts. So they came up to me one day and they, instead of saying Uncle Brian, it came out, it was going to be, Uncle Brian, can we go get some donuts? But it came out, Uncle Donut, and that's Uncle Donut. And guess what? That's my name now.
There it is.
They just call me Uncle Donut.
Just, cut out the middleman.
And we all looked at each other and said, well, that's perfect. That's perfect. And so then they had to figure out, well, what are they going to call Dawn? So they call her Auntie Croissant because they think she's a lot classier than a donut.
That's true.
That is perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that's absolutely true. There's no doubt about that. So Uncle Donut and Auntie Croissant. That's right. That's what we're known about. Let me talk about some stuff going on here in Nashville. You might need to know this. Between now and the end of the year, you may end up having to stop traffic out there at near the airport on I-40, I'm guessing, because they're going to be doing some blasting operations out there. Daily blasting operations began yesterday at 1 p.m. With a backup time of 3:30 p.m. as necessary. The blasts are scheduled to happen every Monday through Friday. So every day around 1 o'clock, between 1 o'clock and then if it's not at 1 o'clock, it'll be at 3:30. Let's not do it at 3:30. That's getting close to real heavy drive time, right? The blasts are scheduled to happen then, and the Nashville Police Department and construction personnel will stop traffic for up to 5 minutes before the blast and 5 minutes after the blast to ensure pedestrian safety. According to the airport, the brief closures will affect traffic on Donaldson Pike. Well, I guess not on I-40, though. Donaldson Pike, Airport Service Road, and Terminal Drive. They will be notified before and after the blast takes place. That's interesting. Okay, so you've been warned. If you got near the airport, you may have to stop for a moment around 1 o'clock as they do some blasting. We all would hate to be booted. I mean, have you ever had your car booted?
I'm crossing my fingers. No, not to this point.
I have had once, and it was a misunderstanding at the apartment complex where I worked, and I had to get it unbooted, and it was boy, did it irritate me. And there's nothing worse than coming out and finding that your car's been booted. But now they got a new thing. They don't have to boot. You know what they do? They call it a barnacle.
Oh, I've seen these
Have you
things.
seen this?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know exactly how to describe it other than it looks like a gigantic yellow thing that they suction to your window so you can't see out of your windshield.
Looks like the lid to one of my storage containers I've got at home.
Yeah, but
Like
apparently
a big rectangle.
Apparently, it is put on there with strong suction cups that are then locked in place. So in other words, you can't see around it. You cannot drive.
Yeah.
With that thing on the windshield, and they say it's actually safer because it's just a fold up. They open it up, they put it down, they suck it on, and then you can't go anywhere. If you get busted, you can use your phone to scan a QR code on the device, pay your fine, and then it will release, I guess, automatically the barnacle.
What are you supposed to do with it? Just throw it on the ground?
That's what I'd do. I'd run over it.
Find a dumpster somewhere?
I don't know. I think I'd just run over the dadgum thing. It's being used in other cities, and metro parking ordinances are being rewritten to allow them here. Some of Nashville's Transportation Licensing Commission have concerns, saying that those barnacles could damage the windshield. Not supposed to cause damage, but anyway, so a lot of places
It'll cause damage if you try to yank it off, I bet.
I bet that's right. Yeah. But they're considering it. No more boot. Get ready for the barnacle. The barnacle.
I can see people now pulling the old Ace Ventura, driving with their head out the window of the car so they can see where they're going.
Nashville mayor from WSMV. Nashville mayor among those who've received bogus parking tickets. There have been nearly 200 complaints filed with the Attorney General by frustrated Metropolis customers. Metropolis customers. You can add Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell to the list of people who've received a parking ticket for parking in a Metropolis-owned garage, which he had not entered. My license plate was falsely read in a garage that I never parked in, he said. And there have been some complaints, apparently, of this happening. WSMV's conducted some investigations, and they say there's like 192 people who have now complained to their office but would not comment on the status of their investigation. I had this happen to me, but in reverse. It was one of these things where I went down, parked in a parking lot next to Bridgestone Arena, went to dinner, went to something over at the Ryman, came back, and then I was told that I had a ticket. And I had paid, I had done the QR code, I'd done the whole 9 yards, I'd put it in, I was not back late, and so I got a ticket. And you know what? I guess I should have fought it, but it's just like, I just decided to go ahead and pay the fine because I figured that it was going to be like 2 or 3 hours out of my life I was never going to get back. It was just easier to pay the fine than it was to do it. But I regret that I didn't take it up because apparently it's a bigger problem than we might have known. Have you ever had that happen where you pay, but you still get ticketed?
Not that I can recall, thankfully.
Of course, it makes up for all those times where I don't pay and I don't get ticketed too. So
I've done that,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. And
not
finally,
admitting to anything, no.
Yeah, no, I would never admit to anything. It's just I've heard it happen.
Sure, yeah.
A Nashville staple known for its meat and three for a decade is open again. But this is the Arnold's Country Kitchen. They now say there've been some talk about they opened for a while, then they closed, and they opened for a while, and they wasn't sure whether they're going to make it. Now they're saying that they're going to stay in that place. That's as I read it here. We opened. It was great response. 2 weeks later, it was like, do people think we're just doing a pop-up? I was like, what did I do wrong? Did I change the recipe? Everything the same? And they thought people weren't coming in the big numbers they were before because, they've been closed for a while. The restaurant closed last year, but the sale didn't happen, prompting the business to officially reopen in January. While many loyal customers routinely stop by to get a hot plate with all the fixins, they say there has been a decline in customers, down 50%. Well, that'll happen. It'll come back if people know you're going to be there. So he's trying to spread the word that the doors are open back at Arnold's. And I used to go down to Arnold's. A friend of mine took me there and said, you really should go. You never know. Back in the day before it shut down the first time, it was a place to go. And you would telling who you'd run into there. Some major country star might walk in. And I was told, and I would have loved to have been here in those days, that Chet Atkins went there almost every day. So, you could be eating the same meat and three that Chet Atkins was eating. Would have loved that. It is 51 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
It's 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top story, 69 degrees. And that sun has come out to play here on Music Row after what was a dreary, gloomy start to the morning and this afternoon. Traffic, complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Starting with an update on the Baltimore Bridge collapse, here's Michelle Franzen.
The investigation into the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge after it was hit by a cargo ship is just beginning and massive in scope. The NTSB, now the lead agency, Chair Jennifer Homendy says workers did not board the container ship yet, while the Coast Guard conducts a search for the 6 people unaccounted for. The ship now tangled in the crushed metal from the bridge.
The vessel is 985 feet long. It's a 95,000 gross ton container ship.
ABC's Terry Moran says it also delivered a blow to the critical port.
It is a major port of entry for automobiles and automobile parts from Europe. And all of that traffic is now frozen. There are 40 vessels, we are told, with Baltimore as their destination heading this way. Many have been backed up already into the Atlantic.
And right now in Tennessee, Mount Juliet police investigating after a man was found dead on a creek bank. The body was found this morning along the embankment of a creek near Lebanon Road. The individual has been identified, although authorities have not released his name at this time. And staying here in the volunteer state to a crime story, more horses have been removed from the Lancaster Pinnacle stables in Rutherford County after a complaint was filed with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. Officials removed 3 horses from the property. They're now in care of Premier Equine Rehab. This comes after officials previously removed 20 horses from that stable in November for being in dire shape. Stable owner Jason Lancaster also facing more than 20 charges involving underage girls, including rape, statutory rape, bribery of a witness, and stalking. In that recent docuseries that exposed sexual abuse in the sets of several 90s and 2000s kids shows, says there's more coming. Here's Jason Nathanson.
It was a toxic environment. The headline-making docuseries Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, is getting another chapter. The Nickelodeon expose premiered a couple of weeks ago on Investigation Discovery with 4 episodes. Now ID is adding a 5th that they say will delve deeper into the toxic and dangerous culture at Nickelodeon in the 90s and 2000s. It'll feature new interviews with former child star Drake Bell, who revealed in the series that he was sexually abused by a Nickelodeon employee, as well as reactions from others in the wake of the doc's popularity. Episode 5 will hit ID on April 7th, then stream on Max.
And that is the latest news, traffic, and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Boy, it turned off to be a nice afternoon. 68 degrees here in bucolic Watertown. After all that little storm we had last night and the high winds, and then a morning full of gloomy rain. But boy, the reward came this afternoon. Sun breaking out. Really nice. Let's get you home safely so you can enjoy the last hours of this beautiful day with your family and get there safely. All right. Listen, by now, no doubt you have heard about this bridge incident in Baltimore. I don't think the entire import of this has really fallen on people yet. I mean, first of all, you recover this as a tragedy. Number one, there was a loss of life. They're looking, they say, for 6 people, but the odds are very long at this point. If you survived, this is apparently 6 people who were part of a pothole crew that was on the bridge at the time. This gigantic container ship coming slowly out of the harbor, apparently lost power on a couple of different occasions, lost the ability to steer, and then rammed into one of the pylons. And within a matter of seconds, this bridge that had stood at the mouth of the Baltimore harbor since 1977, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, it's a major road thoroughfare around Baltimore City. It fell into the water, collapsed. Now, at some point, within a few minutes, they have little patrol boats there in the inner harbor, and they got out there pretty quick and were on the scene. And this is what they heard from the dispatcher shortly after arriving. This is probably about 10, 12 minutes after the bridge had collapsed.
Units responding on fuel alarm, I-695 East. Be advised, 13 persons possibly in the water. There was a 13-person construction crew operating on the bridge, possibly in the water at this time. 146.
6 to communications. Are you advising there's 13 people in the water?
Possibly 13 people in the water at this time. A construction crew.
Okay. Let's go ahead and special call Baltimore County Marine Unit 269 and Marine Unit 216. Notify Anne Arundel County to also stand by for their boat.
Yeah, I mean, they started calling in all the marine resource and boat resources they could find because they wanted to start doing the search. Now, that number 13 is now dropped to, they believe now, 6 people who are unaccounted for. They were part of that construction crew. There were actually people who were on the bridge who fell into the water and were recovered by the boats that were there very quickly. One person was injured, taken to the hospital. I think that person had actually gone home. One person fell into the water, and we're talking, number one, from the bridge deck to the water is 178 feet. That's not a small fall. That's like jumping out of a major building. But that person apparently was recovered and went home. Never even went to the hospital. How that happened is beyond understanding, but maybe we'll get that story in a day or two. They are looking, as they said, for 6 others, but I mean, with the temperature of the water and the time that has gone by, then it sounds like the chances of something positive happening at this point in that regard are incredibly small. But nonetheless, today, when the governor held a press conference this afternoon, they were still calling it a search and recovery effort.
But first, this is very much still a search and rescue mission. We are still actively looking for survivors. We know, and that's the pledge we've made to these families, and this is still very much an active search and rescue mission. And there is not a single resource that we will hold off on deploying. I have already authorized the deployment of everything from air, land, and sea resources to make sure that this search and rescue operation is carried out to its fullest intent. The second thing I want to remind people is that this will not be short. There's going to be a long road. There's going to be a long road, not just as we go from search and rescue. There'll be a long road as we talk about what does the future of this region, the future of the area look like.
Well, it is a huge port, one of the major ports in America. Anything that's inside the inner harbor now is not getting out. Any major ship is not getting out. I mean, the mouth of the harbor is completely closed. And it's going to take a long time to just pull the wreckage out of the way in such a way that they can open it up so that things can get in and out. The investigation will take some time. But this is not going to happen anytime soon. And so until they get that harbor open, you're not going to have the ability to put ships out of that harbor or, more importantly, into that harbor. Ships are already stacking up out in the Atlantic Ocean that were headed for the Baltimore harbor. This is a major harbor with major economic impact when you shut something like this down. We'll get into that in a moment. Let me talk very quickly. There will be an investigation. I mean, what you have here is a ship. It's a 948-foot container ship. Now, you've seen these container ships. They've got those big boxes that are stacked up on the container. And man, I'm telling you, these things are huge. They're massive. They have a lot of weight to them. And it takes a lot to get them moving, and it takes an awful lot to get them to stop. You know, it's the old saying about it takes a long time to get a battleship to turn around because there's just so much mass. Same thing with these container ships. So much mass that even if they're moving slowly, they can do a lot of destruction, even if they're only moving, 15 or 20 miles an hour, or I guess maybe 15 or 20 knots an hour. So when it hit that pylon, it was no chance that bridge was going to survive. And again, apparently, you can see by looking at the tape a couple of different power failures that occurred. And apparently, even though they were trying to get the thing back under control, they did send out a mayday. And the mayday, from what we understand, allowed them to turn on the red lights at each end of the bridge so that apparently there were no cars on the bridge at the time this happened. You see some that just barely get across. But apparently, this saved a lot of lives with the crew alerting the harbor master and the officials there that they had a ship that was adrift and headed toward a pylon. They shut down the bridge, and it saved a lot of lives. However, that does not mean this is not without impact. It's called the Dali, D-A-L-I. It hit a support column on the Baltimore Bridge around 1:30 a.m., causing it to fail and send at least, they said, well, now I'm reading this, it says 7 cars into the Patapsco. That conflicts with information I heard just a short time ago. 1.6-mile bridge collapse was undoubtedly have a profound economic impact, both locally and globally. Around the world, about 40 ships, including 34 cargo vessels, were headed to Baltimore, according to marine traffic, which tracks ships. The Port of Baltimore tops the U.S. list for the volume of automobiles and light trucks that it handles, as well as for vessels that carry wheeled cargo, such as construction machinery and farm equipment. It is the Maryland Department of Transportation calls cargo the lifeblood of the Port of Baltimore. If you've ever been to Baltimore, a lot of people go for a baseball game, and that's near what is known as the Inner Harbor. So it's a place where you can walk along the water. Shops are there. There are always interesting boats there. Sometimes there are tall ships that are there in the harbor. It's a beautiful area. But just across from the area where the tourists all go is a very active port, a huge port, where they bring in these cargo ships and they're unloading and loading cargo 24/7, 365 days of year. Let's see what I can tell you about that. The Port of Baltimore, the deepest harbor in Maryland's Chesapeake Bay, closer to the Midwest than any other East Coast port. One of Maryland's major sources of personal and business revenue, creates 15,300 jobs, another 140,000 jobs linked to port activities. It generates more than $395 million in taxes, $2.6 billion in business income, $3.3 billion in total personal income. All traffic in and out of the port is suspended until further notice. The question is how quickly ocean freight carriers can put diversions in place, particularly for vessels already en route to Baltimore or containers at the port waiting to be exported. Far east of the East Coast ocean freight services have already been impacted by drought in the Panama Canal and recent conflict in the Red Sea. And so this adds to that on a worldwide basis. Port of Baltimore handled close to, you ready for this? 850,000 cars and light trucks last year, more than any other U.S. port in a decade. It's used for imports for automakers including Nissan, Toyota, General Motors, Volvo, Jaguar Land Rover, and Volkswagen. It also handles luxury models for Audi, Bentley, and Lamborghini. Well, there'll be a Lamborghini shortage now. Jason Miller, a business professor at Michigan State University, said he believes consumers interested in imported motor vehicles will be hit the hardest. But it's also a lot of food goes in and out of that harbor. And that means it has to be rerouted, either food that was going out or food that is going in. It will be a major, major disruption. Cargo, the largest container ship to ever enter the port, arrived last year with the capacity to carry more than 15,000 20-foot containers. Wow, 15,000 containers on one ship. The amount of foreign cargo that went out of that harbor in 2023 estimated to be nearly $81 billion in value. Major disaster economically. Coffee, coal, sugar also transported in large volumes through the port. I remember one of the things that I remember about going to is that there is a McCormick's plant just across the way, and they would bring in the ship, and you could smell them unloading the spices for the McCormick company, and especially it was very pungent on Pepper Day when they brought in the pepper and they were loading all of the pepper off of the ship, and they'd go into those little containers that end up on your tabletop.
Lots of sneezing took place that day.
Yeah, it really was. But I mean, it was a very it's a real important port, and will have a great deal of impact. There are going to be things that I promise you in the days ahead. One of the things we're going to remember is not only just the inconvenience and the death and the sadness of all of this that has happened, and the investigation will go on. But I mean, there really will be moments where you're going to say, "How come I can't find this thing on the shelf? How come I can't get this thing that I've always been able to find?" It's going to be because of the disruption of that port. You can't just lose a major port like that and expect all of the other ports to pick up the slack without a problem. And as mentioned here, and it's true, there have already been some real shipping challenges around the world in the Red Sea and the Panama Canal. So this is going to be sort of a thing that will have an economic impact, not only on the United States, inconvenience to a lot of people, but also worldwide. The shipping port of Baltimore down for the count until further notice. And again, we'll take some time to get it all straightened out. The NTSB is on the job. They've got people, but they're not even starting their investigation until the local people get through with what they call the rescue operation, which I think will be coming to close here very soon. It is now 20 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. If you want an engagement ring that she'll be proud to wear, there's only one place to go, and that is Genesis Diamonds. Genesis has cornered the market on all the world-class designers. These New York and Los Angeles-based designers are the best of the best. Every store wants them, but few stores actually make the cut. Well, Genesis makes the cut and has all the luxury brands, all the ones that women are asking for. Do not settle. Get her the ring of her dreams at Genesis. And don't think you'll pay more. Genesis has complete, ready-to-wear designer rings as low as $1,900. And of course, no jeweler can beat the price of Genesis diamonds. Whether you want natural diamonds or lab-grown diamonds, Genesis has the guaranteed best prices and the highest quality. And only Genesis gives you a 120% diamond upgrade guarantee plus free service for life. All this with no commission, salespeople, no pressure ever. Listen, get the deal you deserve on your diamond, Genesis Diamonds, and now with an expanded selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches. All the hard-to-find models available. Check them out, Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
An update on the bridge collapse in Maryland, some crime in Tennessee, and the FDA saying some over-the-counter pain creams could pose some health problems. We'll tell you all about it. 5:30, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right. Here we go.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sports.
Sports.
The thrill of victory. And the agony of defeat.
It's time for Mac Maury's wild world of sports. And now, without further ado, here's the man, the myth, the legend. You love him, you know him, you can't live without him. Mac Maury, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo! Yes, sir. Hello.
Well, it's good to have you back and to talk about sports. This is a lot of people love this little segment. We don't spend a lot of time on sports. We got a station down the hall that does that all the time. But we do think that there are times where it takes just a moment out of the show to talk about the things that are important to the local sports scene, etc. So what do we got?
Yeah, and I think we've been doing this about almost 6 months now, Brian.
Is that right?
I think that's true because our first unofficial segment was about Aaron Rodgers and that injury when the start of the NFL season. That was around 6 months ago. So, and we're still talking about football. Here we are in the NFL. It's the offseason, but there's really no offseason anymore with the NFL. They've done a really, really good job at making sure they schedule different events and different things incrementally across the whole year to where you never really feel like the NFL's dead. The NFL's just in a lull. There's not really a lull period anymore with this offseason, free agency. They have their owners' meetings, and that's now brought up some rule changes here, some of which are some big ones and even controversial ones. One today came through about the kickoff and the kickoff coverage. So now the NFL kickoff will be changed. They're actually copying some of what the XFL used to do. And I'm sure you've watched NFL games recently enough to know the kickoff has basically become a nothing play.
It doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
It doesn't mean absolutely anything. That's exactly right. There's never any returns anymore. I mean, right now it's more than 90% of kickoffs were returned during the XFL's 2 seasons. That's when the XFL rules. If you look at the NFL in the last couple of years, over 80% of kickoffs are touchbacks.
Wow.
I mean, less than 20% are returned, really is the way you want to put that. So they need to make that an exciting play again because kickoffs used to be awesome, but they also were super dangerous. And so they're trying to find some sort of
like
happy medium.
kamikaze squads going after each other there, really, yeah.
Exactly. So they've taken to the XFL, something that the NFL doesn't ever do. They don't copy college. They don't copy the XFL. They're very elitist in that way. We're the best. We do our thing. You're supposed to copy us. But they're actually going to take a hit to their ego here and copy the XFL. So the kicker going to stay in the same spot on these kickoffs. They're going to be at the 35-yard line. But the remaining 10 members of the kicking team will line up at the receiving team's 40-yard line. So they're at their 35-yard line. The rest of the team is, 15, 30, 40 yards ahead on the opposing team's 40-yard line. And then you've got the rest of the receiving team is on the 40 or is on the sorry. Let me get this. Yeah, between the 35 and 30-yard line. So you've got the kicking team at the 35-yard line with the receiving team just 5 yards away from them with at least one returner, can be 2 returners ready to return back in their normal spot. Basically what this does is it's the same distance for that kick, but now there's no 15 to 20-yard startup of that kicking team and that receiving team running into
Full
each other.
steam ahead.
Yeah, like the Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of more of a football play. They're 5 to 10 yards away from each other, and no one can move until the ball has hit the returner's hands or has hit the ground. No one can move. So everyone's still.
But isn't it still likely to just go right out the end zone?
So that's the next question, right? So they thought about that, and they said, well, the kicker still kicked this out the end zone every time. But now touchbacks used to be 25 yards, right? Now they've made that the 30-yard line. So now you've kind of decreased that incentive to kick it out of bounds because you're giving
there is an incentive to actually keep it within bounds.
Exactly, keep
which
it in bounds.
Requires more skill, I would imagine.
More skill, more accuracy, absolutely. And this adds strategy and scheme to the kickoff as well. There's different ways to return now. You can have 2 returners back there, have some sort of blocking wedge scheme. Okay, we're all going to go to the left. We're all going to go to the right. I think this actually makes this play interesting.
Gonna like it.
Yeah, I think this actually is going to be good. Now, and we can spend more time on this maybe tomorrow. The other rule that has been changed has caused a world of controversy, guys. Yeah. That's because they have banned the hip drop tackle. They keep calling it a technique. I hate that because techniques imply that maybe someone taught you this. No one teaches you the hip drop tackle in football. Not a thing. It's just because it's the way you bring someone down to the ground. Now, what a hip drop is when someone is running ahead of you or maybe even beside you, tangential to you. It's when you dive, leave your feet, and swivel your hips underneath them, causing your legs to go into the back of their knees, causing them to fall to the ground with your body weight on top of their ankles and or shins and calves. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've seen that move 1,000 times.
Yep. And it absolutely is a dangerous play in certain regards, but there are many plays that you see linebackers and safeties or cornerbacks trying to bring down a full-speed tight end or a wide receiver behind them. Kind of the only way to bring someone down is to suspend your body weight in midair and kind of bring it forward while you're pulling them down. They showcased what they were showing to the NFL owners about banning this, and a lot of the tackles that they were showing just looked like regular plays to me. Again, there are a couple that are violent, and I think we could maybe truncate this to just the quarterback and maybe even just behind the line of scrimmage tackles. But I think this is going to be a disaster the first season. You're going to see so much laundry.
It's just the way they've been doing it, right?
Well, it's the way they've been doing it in the past 10 years. I won't say it's been a thing forever in football, but as players have gotten more skilled, faster, stronger, it's become kind of one of the few ways you can really effectively, I won't say bring someone down, but effectively bring someone down. The other way would be, instead of swiveling your body and pulling back, you would just push forward, right, and drive your legs. Well, if you're driving a 260-pound tight end behind them, driving them forward, that's an extra 10 yards. That's a touchdown if they're in the red zone. So they want more offense. They want more points. I think they're going to succeed with that, but they're going to slow this game down. This first disaster is going to be first year is going to be a disaster because of the flux of penalties called. But we'll see how it goes. I think there's a place for this rule, but not enough time or prep predicated to actually changing something.
All right, well, we'll leave it right there. Time to get the news. It's 31 past the hour.
.531, I'm Mac Maury with your top story, 69 degrees, and the sun has come back out to play here in Nashville after what was a dreary, gloomy start to the day. Traffic, weather, coming up in 5 minutes. During a press conference with the National Transportation Safety Board at the site of the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore this afternoon, NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy confirms they will comb through the Singaporean flagged ship records, including any maintenance and repair records prior to today's crash.
That is part of our investigation where we look at in depth at safety information, anything that may have occurred prior to this, any sort of safety history with respect to the vessel, any sort of maintenance that was done to a vessel or the vessel or component on the ship.
A team of Singaporean officials, including Port Authority experts, will arrive at the scene tomorrow to assist the NTSB. Back here in Tennessee with a crime story, Metro Police investigating after a shooting left 2 teenagers injured. It happened this morning at a home on Lishi Avenue. The investigation is ongoing into what led to the shooting before midnight. No suspects are in custody. And the FDA says some over-the-counter pain creams could pose health problems. Brian Clark with details.
The FDA is advising consumers to stay away from a series of topical pain relief products used before, during, and after procedures like tattooing, piercing, and laser hair removal. The FDA sent warning letters to 6 companies: TXTX, C-Next Venture, Tattoo Numbing Cream Company, Painless Tattoo Company, Dermal Source, and Ink Easy. Some of these companies' products have higher than permitted levels of the painkiller lidocaine.
And that is the latest news. Traffic, weather next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
You know, a lot of you have lived here for a long time. You know about Eurofix. They've been in Middle Tennessee, the place to go for your European car repair for 24 years. We've watched them grow. Well, I don't know about you, but it's fun watching a hometown business take off. And now the folks at Eurofix are really excited to announce they have a new location. We've been talking about it for a while now. It's Mount Juliet. It's a 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix, right on Mount Juliet Road, straight across the street from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now in their newest location, Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer and watch it grow to 5 locations repairing, I'm not making this up, thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. So call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brian Wilson in the chair. We're going to hit, even before this day's over, even though it started out sort of gloomy and cool, it's darn near 70 degrees.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous out right now.
Yeah, I took a little walk out during the commercial break a while ago, and I was thought, well, can I get away with not coming back in? No. I have to go finish the show. That's right. Commitments and responsibility and all that. But it is really nice. Turned off so beautiful. Enjoy the evening. It's going to be a good one. Got some interesting stories here. I guess I need to get this in because it did happen today. As you know, we had in the Dobbs decision, a major decision regarding abortion that went for many people who look at that issue as I do, and I know many of you do. We thought that was a good ruling, allows states to make the decision, makes abortion a state issue, not a federal issue. But however, there is another shoe to drop in that, and it was argued today at the Supreme Court. I've got like 5 stories. They all seem to have basically the same headline. Now, I just want to caution you here that when you make guesses about what the Supreme Court is going to do, based on the way the arguments go, you're sometimes right and you're sometimes wrong. Many times you have to take into account what happens behind closed doors when the human dynamic is at play, and what kind of things might be said in discussion. Somebody brings up a legal precedent. Somebody brings up the whole thing can then change in a different direction based on what happens behind closed doors. But nonetheless, this is the story that you're seeing time and time again with regard to this, and we're talking about the abortion pill. U.S. Supreme Court signaled Tuesday, according to thehill.com, that it would retain widespread access to one of the most common drugs used in medication abortion in a case that would have nationwide implications for reproductive rights and the authority of federal agency. During oral arguments, a majority of the justices appeared deeply skeptical that a group of anti-abortion doctors and organizations had the right to sue the FDA over changes the agency enacted to make it easier to access this abortion drug, mifepristone. It's M-I-F-E pristone, mifepristone. I hope I'm getting that right. In particular, the conservative justices appointed by former President Trump questioned whether any of the doctors in the lawsuit could show they had been personally harmed by the government's action to regulate the drug. And the reason that's important is because you have to show that there has been harm in order to have standing. The doctors asserted to be violating their morals if they had to treat a woman using this drug, but as Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar said, some of the justices noted the doctors have the ability to opt out if such a scenario were to occur. So it does appear, again, I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4 of these stories that all seem to say that the court seems skeptical of the arguments, and the question seems to be one of legal standing. So we have reported that, and we'll see how it goes. But I think probably that's a pretty decent read on it in this case, unless there's something that pops up during the deliberations behind closed doors that we do not foresee. So this is a story. Talk about this is really rich. From Breitbart.com, Democrats complain. I can't believe anybody would even do that. I can't even believe a Democrat would even begin to offer this as an argument. Democrats complain that Trump benefits from a 2-tier justice system after his New York bond was lowered. Yeah, right. Democrats and never Trump Republicans have settled on talking points after a New York appeals court judge appellate court lowered the bond that former President Donald Trump has to post in order to appeal a civil fraud case from $54 million to $175 million. That the former president benefits from a 2-tier justice system. Are they really going to try to say this? Former New York Assistant Attorney General Tristan Snell told MSNBC on Monday This is a different process for this person. We have decided that he gets his own private court of justice. He has a private plane. He has private clubs he lives in. Apparently, he basically fashions himself a private militia to try to take over the Capitol. Now he's getting his own private system of justice. This is an absolute travesty. It would not happen for anyone else. Anybody else would be like, sorry, buddy, you've lost. For him, he gets his own set of rules. Are you kidding me? Really? Have you looked at how everybody is lined up against Donald Trump in this two-tier system of justice? Yeah, it's two-tier, but not the way you describe it. Honestly, the most ridiculous thing I've ever... I can't even believe they're trying to sell this. Another MSNBC talking head. Of course there's a two-tiered justice system in this country, but it's definitely not tiered in the way that Donald Trump is describing it, and he's implying that he's the one who's treated worse, when actually the opposite is true. That's not the case at all. Look, this case should have never been brought. There is nothing about this case that makes any sense at all. You talk about a two-tiered system. Yeah, it's a two-tiered system in that many of these cases are politically motivated instead of, actually reacting to a crime. In America, the judicial system is supposed to prosecute crime, not individuals. You prosecute a violation of the crime. But in this particular case where the bond was lowered to still $175 million, that ain't chump change, ladies and gentlemen. That's still a lot of dough. This was a case in which there was no victim. Nobody violate. I mean, who in the world is crying, I got screwed here? Nobody. Nobody. Literally no one is saying I was a victim of this crime. There was no aggrieved party. And so to hear the Democrats coming out here and saying, well, it's a two-tiered system adjustment and he's getting all the breaks is just laughable. I don't know if they think anybody's truly slapping this stuff up and accepting it as a legitimate argument, but if they did, it's shocking to me. This one blows me because I know this guy. Former RNC Chair Michael Steele posted on X, yet again, Donald Trump gets special treatment with his own private system of justice. Are you, who the hell are you talking? What are you smoking, Mike? What's going on with that? To get this reduced down to 175 is at least a step in the correct direction because it should never have ever gotten to this point in the first place, as this trial and this case should never have been brought. Period. End of statement. Don't know what to make about this. As you know, P. Diddy, Sean Combs, I don't know what you call the guy. He goes by Diddy now, right?
Yeah, it used to be Puffy, then Puff Daddy, then P. Diddy, then Diddy.
Yeah. Well, apparently, They have the federal government, the federal law enforcement has raided his home both in Miami and Los Angeles, and there's some kind of investigation going on, and it may have to do something with sex crimes of some kind. A lot of police on the ground, and there was some talk that Diddy had taken his jet and gone to some kind of Caribbean island. That apparently is not true. Apparently, he got off the jet in Miami or in Florida. His jet did go on, but not with him on it, is the understanding that we have right now. So he was detained for a moment, but not arrested. And the investigation is ongoing. The only thing that I would say here is I don't know anything about this. I have no inside information. It may be that it's a legitimate investigation. But we've seen, these cases where the federal government overreacts sometimes in raiding people's homes and so maybe in this particular case, it would be wise, again, don't know anything for sure, but what I think it might be wise to wait until we find out a little bit more about what this is all about before we go off, and start making some kind of accusation about what this case may be about. In the initial going, I would say it doesn't sound good for Diddy, but again, who knows what this thing is about? And the federal government certainly has a history of sometimes going in big, and then as they get into it, you find out it was not all that in a bag of chips. So we'll continue to watch that as we go forward. That's a weird one, though. I mean, a representative for Homeland Security Investigations said it was part of an ongoing investigation. They'll provide more information as it becomes available. Being handled by the Southern District of New York, reports say appears to be tied to a sex trafficking allegation. Apparently, that's TMZ. What I'll say about TMZ is that they are very seldom wrong. They sometimes have pretty remarkable stuff, and you say, well, I don't know, that doesn't sound right. You turn out they very seldom have to walk anything back. Fox 11 had some video of individuals in handcuffs near the property, and federal agents rolling up to Diddy's via water on boats. Video showed armed agents standing on a boat, and they too appear to be armed. And so what is this about? We'll wait for more information. 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. What could you do if you were in a situation where, you had pain, but then all of a sudden you had no pain? Your situation would be better. What if you had a family member that's going through a lot of pain? Well, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Ashley over at the Wellness Institute of Nashville can help you get rid of that pain. And they want to do it in a way that's cost effective. Actually, this is a good thing because getting better and feeling healthy is important to them. They're freezing costs at 2023 levels. That's right. Half off spinal decompression treatment, half off their innovative KT knee machine, and new patients can get a full consultation starting at just $23. Now, what do you get for $23? Again, 2023 pricing. For $23 for new patients, you get an exam, a consultation, X-rays if needed. If you bring in an MRI report, he can go over it. Dr. Mitchell, pretty good at finding things that other people have missed. And then they'll put together a game plan, go over your condition, and tell you how they're going to work with you to make you feel better. So call Dr. Mitchell or Dr. Ashley to set up your appointments today. Here's the number. I'm gonna give it to you a couple of times. 615-246-5009. That's 615-246-5009. I'm Brian Wilson, and I put my stamp of approval on the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Learn more at painisbad.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
An update on the Baltimore bridge collapse. An elderly man had his vehicle stolen from him at a Clarksville gas station. Some issues with over-the-counter pain creams. And tomorrow, the one-year anniversary of the Covenant School shooting. We talk about it all at 6 o'clock right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, we'll be looking back at that tomorrow, and I've been going back over our coverage of that day and some of the things that were said. I do think it's a moment for us to stop and think back on that sad day 1 year ago when the Covenant shootings took place, and we'll try to do so in a thoughtful, thought-provoking way. So I hope you'll join us for that tomorrow. 57 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Six o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 68 degrees, sunny on Music Row. Traffic weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. An update on the Baltimore bridge collapse. Chuck Sievertson.
All federal help available is being made in response to the river-spanning Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore, says President Biden.
Personnel on board the ship were able to alert the Maryland Department of Transportation that they had lost control of their vessel, as you all know and reported. As a result, local authorities were able to close the bridge to traffic before the bridge was struck, which undoubtedly saved lives.
Several workers were filling potholes in the bridge when the container ship crashed into a support. Two are rescued, says Maryland Governor Wes Moore.
This is very much still a search and rescue mission. We are still actively looking for survivors.
Tomorrow, the National Transportation Safety Board will begin to release some information about the crash, as the board's chair, Jennifer Humedy. But for now,
Not a lot of information that I can share at this time.
Crime right now in Tennessee. Channel 4 reports that police are on the lookout for a man who allegedly stole an elderly man's vehicle from a Clarksville gas station. This happened 10 days ago. The 78-year-old man entered the gas station with his car on and left with his vehicle gone. The man who stole the car was caught on camera heading towards downtown Clarksville. Anyone with any information is asked to call Crime Stoppers. The FDA says some over-the-counter pain creams could pose health problems. Brian Clark.
The FDA is advising consumers to stay away from a series of topical pain relief products used before, during, and after procedures like tattooing, piercing, and laser hair removal. The FDA sent warning letters to 6 companies: TXTX, C-Next Venture, Tattoo Numbing Cream Company, Painless Tattoo Company, Dermal Source, and Ink Easy. Some of these companies' products have higher than permitted levels of the painkiller lidocaine.
And back here in Tennessee, with tomorrow being the 1-year anniversary of the Covenant school shooting, a bill that would increase the penalty for making a threat of mass violence against a Tennessee school took an important step forward yesterday. The bill passed the State House with heavy bipartisan support, 90 representatives voting in favor, 0 voting nay. Representative Bo Mitchell, Democrat in Nashville, introduced the legislation in the House. The bill would increase the penalty from a Class A misdemeanor to a Class E felony. The bill is now before the State Senate Judiciary Committee. And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good evening, everybody. 6 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson. I am your friend and radio buddy, and I'm glad to be with you this evening as we wrap up 4 hours of broadcasting, trying to bring you news and information about what's going on in the world. We got a lot of stuff to cover here. I think I'll start by looking at some campaign news, some 2024 news. Look, we spent some time talking about numbers, and I know that sometimes numbers don't translate well on the radio, but I've tried to do this in a way that I think you can sort of absorb while I'm giving it in a rather simplified form. As we've told you, you're always going to have some states that are blue, and you're going to have some states that are red. It's really the purple states that matter. That's where elections are decided. If you look at Real Clear Politics average of polls and you look at their electoral college map, they have right now, if you just take all of the polls, average them out, get a number for every state, where you have a competition between Trump and Biden, all 50 states. And then you just say, okay, if you're leading by a hair, we're going to award you that state. And you do that for Biden and you do that for Trump. Right now, if you do that, then Trump wins with 312 electoral college votes. That's according to Real Clear Politics average of polls and the way they look at it, 312. Now, if you look at the battleground states, then Trump's at 219. I think Biden's at like 214, 215, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so that means that if you look at it in what I think is an honest way, saying, well, here are a number of states where it could go either way, I still think it looks pretty good for Trump. Here's where I'm at, okay? I want to read you the Bloomberg five-way. This means there were 5 candidates. People were asked, okay, you got Trump, you got Biden, you got Kennedy, you got West, you got Stein. Who are you going to vote for? In Arizona, Trump leads by 6. That's just outside the margin of error. In Georgia, Trump leads by 7. Now, this poll out of Michigan shows it to be a tie. There have been some other polls where Trump's doing a lot better, but let's just say in this particular poll, they have Michigan as a tie, and Michigan's an important state. So Nevada, Trump up by 6. North Carolina, Trump up by 6. They have Pennsylvania, Trump up by 6. I don't believe that number, quite frankly. I think it's much tighter than that, but it's really weird. Most of the other polls have Pennsylvania a lot closer, and Michigan is sort of starting to get away from Biden, but this one it's backwards. Then the other one is Wisconsin, where the Trump leads by 2. Okay. Arizona. So let's just get your calculator out, okay? I'm going to do this the hard way. I'm going to do this and sort of go along with it. So let's say we're at 219 before we get to the battleground states, and you look at the states of let's see, Arizona. I got to pull up the map. Hang on, I got to pull up the map so I can tell you what the electoral college votes tallies are for each of these states that I'm about to give you. Okay, but battleground map. There it is. Okay. Let's say we give him Georgia, 219. Georgia has 16 electoral college votes. So we go plus 16. That brings him to 235. We go to North Carolina. That's 16. And that brings him to 251. Let's go out to Arizona, where he's doing very well. That's 11. So 11, that brings him to 262. Let's go to Nevada, where he's doing well, and that would be plus 6. That puts him at 268. Now, all he has to do is win one other state. Now, he's ahead in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, but not by much. So that puts him really, really, really close right there. And did I put in Georgia? I think Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. I don't think I missed anything. So I think he's really within close. If he picks up either Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania, he wins. I think the number I came up with in one analysis was 272. So it's still tight, is the bottom line here. But these numbers are starting to shape up well, and the battleground states look good. When you look at the Real Clear Politics average of battleground states, let me just sort of, go through this. Wisconsin, average. Now, this is all of the polls that have ever been taken in these individual states averaged together by Real Clear Politics, right? In Wisconsin, Trump leads by 0.8, according to them. Arizona, 5.2. Georgia, 5.2. Michigan, Trump leads by 3.5 on average. Pennsylvania, they have it tick tight. Trump leading by 0.2. 0.2. North Carolina, Trump leads by 4.4. Nevada, Trump leads by 3. In the overall general election numbers, Trump in the five-way average leads by about 2.3 points on average. In the battleground states, the average, Trump up by 3.2. Now, it's still tight, and all that's within the margin. A lot of that's within the margin of error, but still, the numbers look pretty good. The thing that people are pointing to with this latest Bloomberg poll is that when you look at this number that we got today compared with the numbers that came out last time they did a Bloomberg battleground poll, the numbers have tightened. But that's going to be the way it is. So do we get overconfident? No. Do we have some confidence that things are going pretty well right now? Yeah, as well as you might expect. But we don't know exactly how it's all going to play out, and it's still a long way. But that's sort of the chalk talk on all the numbers. I hope I didn't lose you there. Were you able to follow that, Chris?
I was adding up while you were adding up, yes.
Yeah, because you know that I'm using my calculator because otherwise you can't believe anything I do with numbers. But that's the way it looks right now. Okay. What else is going on with regard to the elections? Republicans are going to take advantage of ballot harvesting and drop boxes where they are legal and where they are, where there's a chance that they might be able to get rid of them. They'll fight to get rid of them. But if it's available to a candidate in a state and it doesn't look likely that they're able to prevail, they're going to have a plan to do ballot harvesting, to do drop boxes in the 2024 cycle. We've got to get involved in this. We've got to get better at that. We spent a lot of time talking about, well, we don't like that. We think there's a lot of room for error there. And the Democrats didn't care. They just used the crap out of it, and they just beat us over the head with it. We've got to vote early. We got to get all the votes in there very, very early. I heard somebody say, vote early, vote often. No, that's what the Democrats do. We're not going to do that. But one way or the other, we need to do that and make sure the voter rolls are cleaned up so that you don't have a bunch of dead people that can vote. That's something that you really need to look at. So, again, Republicans are going to be taking advantage of that in a big way, and that is something new and different, and you need to embrace it. So if you know pretty well how you're going to vote, go vote. Get it in the can, as they say. Get it done. In Pennsylvania, I'll try to bring this in a very short way, very sort of simplified way. They're looking at the census data, and there's a couple of numbers that jump out of them in Pennsylvania that may work to Trump's advantage. In the areas where Trump has traditionally done well in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a hard one because you got Philadelphia on one side, you got Pittsburgh on the other, and you got Alabama in the middle, or Mississippi in the middle. Is what they say. It's a very weird one. But in the counties where Trump has done well, they now believe that in the most recent numbers that about those areas have grown by 4,500. In other words, the population has grown. So the one would think that if the population has grown and it's an area where Trump has done well, chances are it's grown and those numbers will probably be a little larger. But here's the bigger number. In the counties that Biden has won, they have lost around 45,000 people since the 2020 census, especially in and around Philadelphia. I understand that. A lot of people want to leave Philadelphia. If you've ever been to Philadelphia, perhaps you can understand why. They call it the city of brotherly love, but this is a city that actually boos Santa Claus. Did you know that they booed Santa Claus in Philadelphia?
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So not so much the brother left. I know that when all of the Redskins fans back in the days when there were the Redskins, now they're Commanders, would go up to Philadelphia, they would say, it was dangerous to go into that stadium. Because, I mean, the Philly fans are just mean.
I think they were the first NFL stadium to put a jail in the actual stadium.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, the people there, not nice. Not very nice. But, I mean, if they're losing people, that means that there'll be fewer votes. And so, anyway, the long and short of it is those people who crunch census data seem to think that Philadelphia may be more advantageous for Trump than it has been in the past because of the number of people who've moved in that support Trump and the number of people who've moved out who supported Biden in the last election. Let me get this in real quick. RFK Jr., I don't think he has any chance at all of winning. But one thing I say about him is that when you put his name in the mix, he tends to take more votes away from Biden than he does from Trump. And that's a good thing from our perspective. Well, he's named his running mate today. It is Nicole Shanahan. Yes, no, you don't know who? No, I've never heard of her either. She is Nicole Shanahan, a California-based attorney, previously married to Google co-founder Sergey Brin. And according to people familiar with her, she says she's 38 years old. She runs a foundation focused on reproductive rights, criminal justice, and the environment. And before backing Kennedy's independent bid, she had been a donor to Democrat campaigns, including support of Joe Biden's election in 2020. She made Kennedy, RFK Jr., made the announcement today in Oakland, and that's where Shanahan grew up. RFK is not going to be the next president of the United States. He says he's in it till the very end, but the truth of the matter is he's not technically on the ballot in a lot of places. I think I heard someone say today, and I need to triple check this, but I heard someone say today he's only on the ballot in Utah. Well, we know where Utah is going to be.
I don't think that's going to get it done.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to get it done. You got to be on a few more ballots. But again, one of the things they thought is that this woman, because she has money, because she has some technical savvy, might be able to work that problem for RFK. I don't know. I don't know what RFK's game is, except that when you put his name into the mix, Biden's numbers typically go down and not up. And then, by the way, there is this story. The people at Biden campaign know that. Headline from the Daily Caller. Team Biden reportedly building mass operation to take down third-party candidate they fear could cost him the election. And that third-party candidate is Robert F. Kennedy. So look out, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The Democrats are coming after you in a big way, going to try to take you down because they feel like if they can take you down, they can limit the damage you do in stealing votes from the Biden campaign. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Hey, if you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltzko are two guys you need to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, fair prices. They can build your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind, and that is the Stoltzko difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. It can function as a classic tool and work barn, a garage, or even a place to live. Flexibility is key. They combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. Do me a favor. Go to their website, stoltzco.com, STOLTZCO. Take a look at some of the things they've done for other customers, and then you're going to say, wow, I need me some of that. And then you want to call this number, 615-622-5992. Stoltzco, where quality workmanship and great customer service is affordable. Learn more at stoltzco.com. That's stoltzco.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
You know, I'm getting sort of excited about the 8th of April because it's going to be the eclipse, the total eclipse of the sun. It won't be a total eclipse here in Nashville, but many people are moving over toward, well, I think you can go to Paducah or you can go to a little town called Henderson, Kentucky, and you'll be in totality. And so I'm planning on, I'm taking the day off. I'll just give you a heads up right now.
All righty then.
This is the last one that will happen for the next 20 years in America.
Wow.
And I'll be lucky if I make it another 20 years. So, I'm going to go see this one. And apparently, we all remember, many of us remembered what happened in 2017 when the eclipse came right through the Nashville area. I wasn't here then, but I actually came to Middle Tennessee to experience that one when I was living in Florida before I moved to Nashville. This one's going to be different and bigger in a lot of ways, and a lot of it has to do with some weird things. First of all, what happens in an eclipse is the moon passes in front of the sun. That's basically what it is. And that will happen in this particular time because the moon will be actually, a little closer to the Earth Yeah, that's right. A little closer to the Earth than it was the last time. The stripe of totality, where it gets completely dark, will be a little wider than it was in 2017. April's path did pass over more cities, will also pass over more cities and densely populated areas than it did in 2017. According to a NASA estimate, according to an estimated 31.6 million people will be in the path of totality this year, compared with 12 million in 2017. And about 150 million people live within 200 miles of the path of totality, so many people will drive to experience it. And this will be longer totality than it was in 2017. The longest that could be experienced in 2017 was 2 minutes and 42 seconds in Carbondale, Illinois. But, of course, when you're in Carbondale, Illinois, it seemed like an hour.
It was a lifetime.
In April, the eclipse will last up to 4 minutes in some areas, 4 minutes and 28 seconds. That'll be especially true in northwestern Mexico. I have my nephew's going. He's big into this kind of stuff, and he's traveling to Dallas, where I think there's going to be like more than 3 minutes of totality. And in the place I'm going, I mean, I looked it up. I think it's like 2 minutes and 30 seconds of totality. Still, it's the most amazing time ever, when it happens. Yeah, I mean, do you remember the one? Were you able to watch it?
Yeah, I was out in my front yard. I remember being at home watching it. Yeah, it was. It doesn't seem like it was that long. It seems like it was less than 2 minutes, but it may have been a little more than 2 minutes. But yeah, a very eerie thing to be the middle of the day, bright sunshine. It all of a sudden gets almost dark out.
Yeah, and then
very strange.
And then the birds stop chirping. They're mystified by it.
Everything kind of got quiet. I do remember that.
Well, in 2017, you have the sun goes through maximums and minimums, and in 2017 they were in a minimum stage, and this one it'll be a maximum, which means that as you look up, and you can look up and look at it at that moment when it's in totality. You got to be careful. You got to do it before, not before and not after, but in totality you can look, and you may be able to see streamers coming off the sun. You might see something known as a coronal mass ejection.
Ugh.
It just sounds painful.
Yes, it does.
It's basically an eruption of solar material off the surface of the sun. Might be visible. Normally, you just can't see it because it's too bright. But when the moon is there, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, it's coronal mass ejection. I guess I don't know. And so anyway, this is pretty interesting. Actually, we have 2 spacecraft that are going to be studying the sun's corona during the eclipse. So interesting. The coolest thing I heard was that some airlines are actually booking flights where they'll chase the eclipse.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. I guess, but how would they work that out with everybody be crowded to one side of the plane?
I don't know.
They're going to be looking at it out the airplane window?
I don't know. Well, of course, you could be right in the middle of totality, it'd be dark on both sides.
That's true.
You fly right down the stripe of totality, and you chase it, from, let's say, I don't know all the places that it's going to be, but I think it's like it runs from about the Great Lakes, sort of at an angle down through Dallas.
Yeah.
Put it down through there, and so it comes just to the edge of Kentucky. That's where I'm going to pick it up. It's going to be interesting to watch. I know here we will have the sun will dim here in Nashville, but it won't go dark.
Well, I guess we'll just make do with that.
That's right. It is now 30 minutes past the hour. Time for the news.
What an absolute mess. Hey, it's Dan Mandison. Look at my closets. Unorganized to say the least. Even my window dormer is a train wreck. Stuff is everywhere. Now, luckily, California Closets is coming to my rescue. My personal design consultant, Vince, stopped by, measured, and is now showing me how to become more space efficient and organized on his 3D CAD system. It is amazing. And soon, my space is going to be organized, and yes, even Bandit approves. California Closets, a local company that can customize the storage in any room of your house. California Closets, what can they do for you? Find them online at californiaclosets.com and reach out for your free in-home consultation.
Let me tell you about the Brass Lantern and Legend restaurants owned by Johnny Fleeman. You know Johnny. He's been around here for some 35 years serving Middle Tennessee and surrounding areas. And he wants me to talk about some of the things that they do there so you can get good food at a really good price. I mean, 35 years, and here are some of the daily specials. Chicken fingers on Monday with fries and coleslaw, $8.99. Tuesday, slow-cooked 8-ounce prime rib and a side for $18.99. Wednesday, choice sirloin with a side for $8.99. Thursday, hamburger steak dinner, $8.99. Sunday, 3 different pasta dinners for $9.99. And remember, for over 35 years, the Brass Lantern and Legends restaurant have given you authentic, made-from-scratch, delicious recipes at affordable prices. And they want you to also remember their daily lunch specials, which start at only $6.99. That's right, $6.99. Good food, really good prices. That's what you get. Also, don't forget to pick up some of those delicious Johnny Fleeman products at your local grocery store. You're going to love your next visit to the Brass Lantern or Legends restaurant nearest you. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. And, listen, we are so glad that you're with us on this Tuesday evening. It started out really gloomy, but right now, just a beautiful 70 degrees.
Yeah, I don't think you could dial one up any better than this.
Yeah, beautifully.
Turned out great.
Yeah, it turned out great. It started out not so good, turned out really good. All right, so Karine Jean-Pierre, she continues to entertain. She's doing a radio interview with a North Carolina radio host. And the host just asked the question out front, does Joe Biden have dementia? And she really, I think it's a fair question. I mean, you got to ask a question like that. But she didn't like it very much. So she sort of complained about the question, sort of tried to answer the question, asked him to move on. He did move on. And then she basically just hung up on him. So here is in its entirety that soundbite, Karine Jean-Pierre talking to a North Carolina radio host. And I got to get the name here because I want to give the guy credit. His name is Mark Garrison.
when I told a number of people that I was talking to you today, it was interesting, though. They all said, would you please just ask her, does the president have dementia? And so before I move on from that, does he?
Mark, I can't even believe you're asking me this question. That is an incredibly offensive question to ask.
But you know people ask it.
Wait, let me. No. You, Mark, you're taking us down this rabbit hole. Let me be very clear about this. For the past several years, the president's physician has laid out in a comprehensive way the president's health. This is a president, if you watch him every day, if you really pay attention to his record and what he has done, you will see exactly how focused he's been on the American people, how historic his actions has been. And so I'm not even going to truly really, take the premise of your question. I think it is incredibly insulting, and so we can move on to the next question.
Gas prices and grocery prices, then big topics here in North Carolina. How does Mr. Biden win votes when people don't have as much disposable income?
Look, the president understands. He grew up in a middle-class family, working-class family in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He gets it. He understands how difficult it is for Americans who are sitting around their kitchen table every month trying to figure out what they're going to pay for. You have to remember when the president walked into this administration, there were multiple crises happening. There was COVID. There was the economy was in the tailspin because of the last administration, because of what the President Trump left us with. Now you're asking me about gas prices. The president took action on gas prices. Let's not forget Russia's invasion on Ukraine skyrocketed prices of gas. And because the president took action, we are in a different place than we were a year ago on gas prices. Eggs, milk, seafood products, all the important groceries, those costs have gone down because of what this president has been able to do. And with that, thank you so much, Mark. Have an amazing, amazing day.
Wow. She hung up. Wow.
I mean, Mark, listen, I am nominating you to get a press corps badge, and you need to go to the White House. I'm sorry, but you asked 3-4 incredibly salient, important questions that are all front of mind.
There you go. I mean, she wasn't having any of it. First of all, the thing that really bothers me about her answer, and she always says, well, look what he's accomplished. Well, what did he accomplish? I mean, when he says, well, he got this passed and he got this passed and he passed. Congress did that. What he accomplished was signing a piece of paper at the end of the process. And his staff did all the work. He didn't do any of that. And it's a fair question. What you really want to know with your president is he able to make good decisions on the fly? And I don't have that confidence, and I think a lot of people don't. But they're just going to, she couldn't come up with the phrase she was trying to come up with. I'm not going to dignify that with an answer. But she just stuttered and stumbled around. What did she think? She's calling North Carolina radio, and they're not going to ask that question? It's insane. Of course they're going to ask that question. We're getting a little bit more information about what's happening in Baltimore Harbor, where that big container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And it's really quite a beautiful bridge, or was. They are now saying that they are assuming that the 6 people that they've been searching all day for are presumed dead. These were people apparently on a work crew that were on the bridge doing pothole repair at the time. So that is the latest information. And then there is this from Fox Business, the massive container ship that smashed into a high-traffic bridge in Baltimore, Maryland, apparently had previously collided with infrastructure while docking in other places. This is the ship called Dali, D-A-L-I. According to previous reports, not the first time the Dali has struck city infrastructure while transporting goods. A similar but far less serious incident reported in 2016. It collided with a stone wall at a dock in Antwerp, Belgium, the afternoon of July 11th, 2016. Suffered damage, was docked for repairs. No one was injured in the collision, according to the New York Times. The Tuesday incident, far more deadly, of course, according to officials, And as you know, they have just announced that they have ended their rescue effort and now consider it recovery. And they said there were 2 people that were pulled from the water following the collapse. One of them was in serious condition. The other went home. And then there were some reports that, I'm not sure which is true now, because there were some early reports that some cars went into the water and they thought some cars were submerged. But then later reporting said that they were able to shut down the traffic so that, that at the time that the bridge actually collapsed. And in my looking at the video, I don't see cars on the bridge at the time.
Unless it could have been perhaps work crews in the vehicles that they were in.
Yeah, maybe
those are the vehicles.
That could be. That's entirely possible, Chris. Good thought. In other news, while we got a few minutes left, Florida has a law that has banned social media for minors under the age of 14. Under the new law, social media companies are required to close accounts believed to be used by minors under the age of 14. The platforms must also cancel accounts at the request of parents or minors, and all information from the accounts must be deleted. Law takes effect on January 1st of 2025. Minors who are 14 or 15 years old can obtain a social media account with parental consent, according to the new law. Accounts already belonging to teens of that age must be deleted if the parent or the guardian does not consent. DeSantis, the governor, Ron DeSantis, says being buried in those devices all day is not the best way to grow up. It's not the best way to get a good education. The law doesn't name specific platforms, but targets social media sites that rely on features such as notification alerts and autoplay videos that encourage compulsive viewing. A child in their brain development does not have the ability to know that they're being sucked into these addictive technologies and to see the harm and step away from it, says Speaker of the Florida House Paul Renner. And that because of that, we have had to step in for them. A TikTok spokesman said the company has policies in place to protect teens and would continue to work to keep the platform safe. TikTok. Speaking of social media, Donald Trump has this social media Truth Social. It has gone public. And he's now trading, and apparently he stands to reap billions, maybe as much as I've read $3 or $4 billion from this because he was on the ground floor as it goes public. Can't touch the money for some 6 months, but it certainly will give him by the end of this year. Well, this is March. 6 months would be 9. That'd be what? September. Before the elections, he would be able to touch that money, if I understand this correctly, and I think I do. That would be helpful at the end of the campaign to have all of a sudden $3 billion available to you as you were trying to put the finishing touches on a campaign. That's pretty good stuff, and everybody says he's not worth anything. Finally, this is now official. It has happened. NBC News has officially terminated its short-lived relationship with former RNC chair Ronna McDaniel. Memo sent to staff over at NBC. There is no doubt that the last several days have been difficult for the news group. NBC Universal News Group Chairman Cesar Conde began Tuesday in a memo. After listening to the legitimate concerns of many of you, I have decided that Ronna McDaniel will not be an NBC News contributor. He acknowledged McDaniel's hiring had undermined the goal of a cohesive and aligned newsroom. What's the problem with having one person on staff who, by the way, these are paid contributors. They're not journalists. They're there to give their opinion. Every network, Fox, CNN, everybody's got their group of contributors who contribute opinion, and it's identified as such. This is my opinion. Well, what's wrong with having somebody like Ronna McDaniel offer opinion? They can't stand it. They can't stand it that somebody might have a different opinion than everybody else at on NBC or MSNBC. So they had to can her. I think that's very sad. Rachel Maddow and Chuck Todd and a couple of other anchors over there make a bunch of noise on the air this weekend, completely undermining the decisions of their bosses, by the way. I can tell you that in major news organizations that I worked in, if that had happened, you would have been fired, because they would remind you very quickly, despite what you may believe, talent, you are an employee, and this is not your network. You are an employee of the network. This is our network, and we'll run it the way we think it should be run. And if you don't like it, then there's a door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Anyway, Ronna McDaniel, she's got a lawsuit. She'll probably get some money out of the deal, but she's not going to be on NBC, that's for sure. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. All right, a question for you. Are you happy with your weight? I want you to know that I was not getting to the place where I was happy with mine. I started regaining a lot of the weight that I lost last year, and I decided to do something about it. Now, I've never taken on a weight loss client before, but I'm real impressed with the program that Jamie and Carly over at Restoration Wellness Med Spa in Lebanon developed for me, and for Cabana Wife, too. You see, it's not just one size fits all. They took a look at my history, my lifestyle, suggested an approach that is starting to show some real results. And here's the good thing. I go through this, and I'm not hungry, which is so huge, so important. Beyond that, Cabana Wife and I are undergoing peptide therapy at Restoration Wellness Med Spa and are thrilled with the results of that. We've both noticed greater mental clarity and increased energy. So whether your goal is to lose weight or improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness Med Spa has a solution for you. Maybe it's time for you to join more than 1,000 patients who've already seen life-changing results. The number, 615-470-8124. Learn more at restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.